realized that it was just this shit again.
Yeah, I mean, figure it out.
Right.
I mean, look, the first time I go, okay, you get a pass. It's not great. But now they can't even take my daughter out to play at daycare because of the fucking PM 2.5 or whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't know why we hold on to so many bombs if we're going to let them just send smoke into our country and make it miserable.
Right. Right. I mean, I think there should be repercussions for this
Right.
if we're being completely honest.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
Has to be.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Deeper Dive presented by Prize Picks. Dave Loughran, Laffy_D on Twitter. Breaking down a 5-game slate tonight with Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's good, brother?
How's it going? It's been a long day. I like having the two different slates, but it makes like content weird. It feels like I don't know. It feels like there was like a full day between when I did the show with Josh this morning and now.
Oh, so you were on the show today, and it was early live before lock, right? It wasn't a strategy show.
Yeah, so it was from 1 to 2.
Yeah, right. And then you're right back at it 3 hours later, talking 5 entirely different games.
Right.
Well, at least it's not a 15 game. At least we're not starting at 4:45.
That is true.
Which would be weird if there was an early slate. Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
But happy to have. What's that?
I'll say, yeah, not enough teams for that.
Dude, how about Domingo Herman yesterday? Perfect game. So I wake up I fell asleep. There's no way I was finishing that game, especially since I had hockey late the night before. I was like, I'm going to sleep, got to rest up here. I wake up, I'm scrolling, I'm looking at everything, and I see perfect game, and I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's so tough to figure out too. Like back-to-back negative starts in terms of DraftKings points, and then a perfect game. It's like he's cheating for 3 days, like 3 games at a time, stopping for a few games and then doing it again.
Kind of wise if you think about it. Throw him off the scent.
Right.
You have like 2 terrible starts. No one's going to think you're cheating. But the perfect game might throw that off. I don't know.
So, I mean, next start, you have to come out with no cheating and just go negative again.
Just get hammered. Yeah.
Right.
By like a bad team or something like that. But anyway, happy to have you guys with us for this little 5-gamer on a Thursday evening. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Just take a single second out of your day. Show some love. Tap that thumbs up. If you hate this show, hit the thumbs down, but make sure to do it twice. And of course, subscribe to the channel too. Looking to get to 100K at some point. Definitely by the end of NFL. Slowed down a little bit here, but by the end of NFL, I think we hit that 100K mark, and it'd be all thanks to you guys. So tone for your sins here on the Deeper Dive. Hit that thumbs up, and let's talk some baseball. How you feeling about this slate from pitching and stacks and hitting standpoint? I will say once again that the Dodgers are on this night slate and not the early slate.
Yeah, so 5-game slates, I think, typically put you in situations where you don't feel super comfortable because they're small enough where the best spots are going to get a ton of ownership, but they're still big enough where you can find some, not necessarily like really low owned spots, but some contrarian spots that make sense given the slate size. So I think that's the case. One thing I do like, though, is that at least I think it plays very differently than the last couple slates did as far as the Dodgers go. When you have those 13 and 15 game slates, it becomes so easy if you want to just balance out ownership on a team like the Dodgers and still play a lot of them. On a slate like today, it becomes more difficult to do that. So kind of, I think, changes the strategy. So at least it should be a little bit different to talk about.
Well, let's get into it then. Oh, no.
This didn't happen when Mike produced.
No, Mike just couldn't hear us for half the show. He literally pushed us live without having audio.
Yeah.
What's going on, Jordan? We still live? All right, boys. Well, I got dinner waiting upstairs, so. Yeah, we're back. All right. One game down, 4 to go. And that was some good insight for sure. Let's talk about Milwaukee, New York Mets. Now, so let's dive into it. So we're good, Jordan. We're back. We're back in business here. All right. Apologies, technical difficulties. Sometimes it's YouTube, and then everyone just blames us because we're an easy scapegoat. But let's talk about it. San Francisco Giants and the Toronto Blue Jays, 9-run total here. Keaton Winn and Chris Bassett. I guess we can start it off with Keaton Winn. And of course, if you guys are subscribers or you've used the Prize Picks promo to get the free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum when you deposit $10 with the link in the description, whatever it is, we'll reference the top pitchers tool, the top stacks tool, ownership a whole lot on the show. You know where to find it under the MLB dropdown if you want to follow along. But what do you make of this Keaton Winn fella who 41 AAA innings this year, solid K rate, 27%. It's obviously taken a considerable dip in the 12 innings he's pitched in 3 games, no starts this season at the majors with San Francisco. How far do you expect him to go in this game?
Yeah, so I think that's, the biggest question is what exactly does it look like when he pitches well? Obviously, it's a tough matchup, so there's some chance that he just gets knocked out early. But 44 pitches on the 24th, 60 on the 19th. I mean, if you say he could throw probably 70, 75 pitches here based on him starting most of the year in the minors and then throwing 60, 10 days ago, and being on normal rest. If he's pitching well, I wouldn't be surprised if you get 5 innings out of him. I would think 4 to 5 innings if he pitches well, which at 4K on this slate, I think is actually perfectly fine. Like if you're going to go to a 4K guy like that, where, you're kind of just saying, if he gets me 12, 13 points, great. If he does better than that, that's even better. It's going to be on these slates where you just don't have good pitching. And that's really going to be the theme of today is you have Scherzer at the top, who has been good, not as good as normal, but good. And then just a bunch of garbage on this slate. So I really don't mind just completely punting with a 4K guy and hoping he doesn't go negative.
Yeah, and to your point, it's kind of wild when Emmett Sheehan's getting 28% ownership at Coors Field.
Right, exactly. There's not a single pitcher on this slate that I can just say great things about. And outside of Scherzer, there is not a single pitcher that I really can even say good things about. So I really just don't mind at all saying okay, I'm just going to spend as little money here as possible and keep going.
Okay. Well, and by the way, Keaton Winn is also someone that he's never, even at every minor league level and just relatively early in his MLB career, no real home runs allowed either. 0.65 home runs per 9 allowed in 41 and a third AAA innings. This season in 12 innings, only 1 home run allowed. So we can talk about the Blue Jays bats in a second, and I think we're definitely going to get into that. But what about Chris Bassett pulling 31% ownership right now, 28% top 2 pitcher probability? Now, it is a matchup against the San Francisco team that against righties strikes out at one of the higher clips in baseball, but also they hit for power and they can do some damage as well. 31, almost 32% going to Bassett in our ownership projections at the moment.
Yeah, so I had one more thing I wanted to say about Winn, and it kind of is going to tie into my thoughts on Bassett here. Rest of season, depending on it varies by model, but rest of season, he projects for around 22% strikeout percentage and a 4 to 4.1 FIP. That's talking about Winn, the 4K pitcher. Looking at what every other pitcher on this slate has done, he would have a higher, if he pitches to that 22% K rate, that's higher than every pitcher on the slate this year, with the exception of Scherzer. Walker is second at 20.7. Bassett is third at 20.5. So that kind of just puts it in context too, where, this guy doesn't have to be very good. He can just be an average pitcher and he's still better than everything else going today, referring to Winn. Now Bassett is interesting because, like you said, he does have a good strikeout matchup against the Giants. They've certainly been strikeout prone this year, but Chris Bassett overall hasn't been very good. 20.5% K percentage, 4.64 xFIP, 1.5 home runs per 9. So it's not even like you're talking about a relatively low strikeout percentage, but he's been great at limiting power and getting outs. He really hasn't. But what stands out even more is that it's really been massive issues with lefties. Righties this year have a 287 expected WOBA, 118 expected ISO. Lefties have a 385 expected WOBA, 256 expected ISO. Giants lineup has 4 lefties in the top 6, 5 lefties overall. Wade, Peterson in particular have power. Now, Bassett does get a break because Conforto and Yastrzemski are both hurt, but if you had to draw up like the worst matchups you could for Bassett, it's just going to be teams that have power and left-handed bats. And the Giants still have that, at least to some extent, even though it is a little bit limited. And they're getting a nice park shift in Toronto. So I completely understand the ownership going to Bassett. If it's not like assuming Scherzer's the SP1, if the SP2 isn't Bassett, I really don't know who it is, like who the best SP2 is, because like Taijuan Walker's not very good. JP France isn't good. You have Sheehan and Coors, like you just run out of options. But at the same time, this is purely a spot where Bassett's getting ownership because everybody else sucks, not because of anything to do with him, because this is a pretty brutal spot for him as well.
For sure. Just going back to Wynn for a second, what a wild looking character he is. But at $4,000, he hasn't made any starts this year, but he's gone 4, 5, and 3 innings. He's thrown 55, 60, and 44 pitches, averaging 13 pitches per inning too. He's actually been efficient. And for what it's worth, looking at the K rate, look at the matchups he's faced. I'm not trying to make the argument that you should die on the Keaton Wynn hill, but you made some good points and I dug a little bit deeper into it. St. Louis, San Diego, and Arizona, Adam, a couple of teams that really don't strike out much against righties at all and been efficient with his pitches. I wonder, like, can he get you to 80 pitches today? And can he continue to be relatively efficient and good that like he's been throughout the first 3 appearances?
Yeah, and I mean that's sort of the thing with the rest of the season projections. On FanGraphs, you get a variety of systems, and you can see how they have them projected going forward. And none of them vary too much. That he projects to be perfectly fine, like a 22-ish% strikeout percentage rest of season, right around a 4 FIP. Like this isn't a spot where there's some good signs, but like he's projected to be garbage. He projects as a pretty good pitcher.
What about bats on either side of this game?
So the bats here are at least somewhat interesting because of it being a 5-game slate. They are in a favorable hitter's park, so you have that. It's not a great matchup, like we're saying, for Toronto against what projects to be a solid enough pitcher and in some ways a bullpen game, but it is still a Toronto team that has a ton of power upside. They are 7th in aggregate ownership on the slate of 10 teams. So whenever you see that with Toronto, especially against, a pitcher that doesn't have a major league pedigree yet, there is some appeal there. The Giants are second from the bottom in ownership, pretty much in line with their top stack percentage. I just mentioned it in chat. If you had Conforto and Yastrzemski in this lineup, I would really, really like the Giants. As is, I still think they're interesting in tournaments because not only are they low owned, but they're also going up against the second most popular pitcher on the slate. So you get some added upside there. But the problem is just in terms of like who you really want, it's Wade and Peterson. Bailey, Sable give you some left-handed bats in the middle of the order as well. But if you had Yaz and Conforto in this lineup, it would actively look really good.
Listen, Chris Bassett's had a homer and a power problem.
Oh, yes. To lefties specifically.
And also on the road. You want to know what his home road splits are for home runs?
I mean, I think it's going to change because Rogers Center is hitter friendly.
I know, which is why it's so weird, but it's right. Dramatic. 3-13.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wonder if he just had like a random road start.
Well, he has 4 road start with multiple home runs allowed. He gave up 3 against Baltimore in Camden Yards. He gave up 2 in Minnesota, gave up 3 in Tampa Bay, gave up 4 in his first start in St. Louis. So, I mean, he's had 4 games where he's just been blown up on the longbow.
Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, that goes back to like, I think the Giants are an interesting tournament stack here. If they had their other lefties that are also good power hitters, I would think they were just a really good stack aside from ownership.
Any other thoughts on this one?
Nope.
All right, let's go Milwaukee and the New York Mets. Adrian Hauser, Max Scherzer. We'll talk about Scherzer in just a second, but Hauser has a solid 2.5K prop. A 2.5K prop. So
the over was one of the best bets in BetPro, but it was still with like a 3.4 projection.
Yeah. Oh, I bet the over on it, by the way, just because it's 2.5. But it's not the greatest matchup. This is just a guy that he doesn't miss bats. He doesn't get Ks. There's really, again, nothing inspiring about him. 6,900. Just at this point, just go to Keaton Wynn.
Yeah, pretty much. The lack of strikeout stuff is there. And then it's also not like it's a good strikeout matchup with the Mets. Coming into the game, 14.5% K percentage, 4.5 xFIP. he's not bad at preventing runs. He's only allowed half a home run per 9 innings. From a just run prevention standpoint, you can make a case at least for Hauser. But it is an above average Mets offense. They're tough to strike out, 4.9 implied run total. If you're playing a bunch of lineups and you want to get to some of him because he's only 7% compared to Sheehan in Coors at 28 and Hendricks at 16, like it's a perfectly reasonable pivot. But as you said, I think in most lineups, I probably like would just go down to win and get better bats.
Chuck Dooza said the Blue Jays pitchers are a lot better at home, all of them. Yeah, a lot of them certainly are. Maybe they're cheating, Adam.
I mean, the Blue Jays almost definitely used to cheat heavily at home as far as hitters go. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason to read into home road splits for like a season. You're talking about like 5-6 starts a piece,
unless you're cheating.
Sure,
which they are.
Except for Alek Manoah, they wouldn't let him.
Yeah, they're like, we don't like this guy. He's not in on it. No, 3.4 xFIP on the road or at home, 4.1 on the road. Yeah, I don't know. You would expect that to regress, like especially at Rogers Center.
Yeah, like with home road splits, you always just like need to kind of go with what makes the most sense and stick with that for a while. Like Aaron Nola, for example, I don't know if he's still doing it, but did have a very long stretch where despite pitching in a pitcher-friendly park, he's better. And that can probably just be a comfort thing, but like that's not going to be your assumption. The assumption should be that when you're pitching in a hitter-friendly park, unless you've just been playing in more hitter-friendly parks, like your numbers shouldn't end up that way, and it's going to be a small sample issue for a while.
Right. Or if you're cheating.
Also that, yeah.
Yeah, which they are. Max Scherzer. What do you want to do with Scherzer today? 57.5% ownership on DraftKings today, 48% on FanDuel at 9,700. So, yeah, Max Scherzer, far and away the highest owned pitcher. We have him with a 51% top 2 probability of being the top 2 pitcher on DraftKings, and on FanDuel we've got him at 21%. So, pretty considerable difference there. But that's of course being the top pitcher on the slate. What do you make of Scherzer?
He's the only pitcher that I actually like today, which,
okay,
you know, we'll see how that goes. But we have him projected for 5.5 DraftKings points more than the next closest pitcher, which is Bassett. It's just, you know, every single other pitcher on this slate either isn't good, has a tough matchup, or in most cases, both. Scherzer, he's getting old. He's not putting up the same numbers he has in the past, but still has a 26.2% strikeout percentage. Next highest on the slate, as I mentioned before, is almost 6 full points below that. 3.98 xFIP. He's also in a pitcher-friendly park facing a Milwaukee team that that's tied with Detroit for the 5th highest strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching this year, 92 WRC plus. As far as matchups and talent goes on this slate, this is as good as it gets.
Do you have on a 5-game slate, given Scherzer's ownership, do you have any interest in the Milwaukee Bats at all?
Yeah, it's a 5-game slate. So what happens is, like, when you get bigger slates and you get a spot like this, it's like, okay, well, yeah, sure, if Milwaukee goes off, you're just passing a lot of the field because they have Scherzer, but you're still contending with, like, you know, 14, 15, 20 other offenses that they have to beat out for them to actually be a winner. And it just becomes such a low probability play. On a slate like this, it's still a low probability play because they are facing the best pitcher on the slate, but you're still talking about Milwaukee with a 3.5% chance of being the top stack. Think about yesterday. I think there were probably 5 teams that had higher than a 3.5% chance out of the 26 that were on the slate.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Right. So they will still hit at a decent percentage, and they are the lowest owned team on the slate at 3.5%. They're cheap. They actually have the 2nd highest top value percentage, and they give you the leverage of when they do go off, 50% of the field just lost their $11,000 pitcher. They actually were showing up not a ton in terms of frequency in my MLB Sims video earlier, but some of the highest simmed lineups were actually Milwaukee stacks. So, you know, again, it's less likely than any other team on the slate to come through, but if it does, it is a small enough slate where it actually gives you a pretty legitimate shot at winning.
On the other side of this one, we talked about Hauser for a little bit here. You know, just how undesirable he is from a fantasy standpoint. He has a 14% strikeout rate on the season. He really doesn't miss a ton of bats. He does generate a lot of ground balls, though. It's his bread and butter. Like if he's going to get out of trouble, it's just going to be having batters pound grounders into the dirt. 0.67 home runs per nine. He's one of those guys where like maybe you see that get worse, but look at his home run rates per nine over the last 3 years. He does not give up power. That's the and he's at Miller Park too. So this is just one of those guys who's not good. He's never going to be on your DFS radar, but he's also not the best guy to stack against. Does that change for you on a 5-game slate though?
I mean, sort of. It's still not a guy that I really like to stack against, especially in a pitcher friendly park. But it changes just because it's a 5-game slate and the Mets are still a decent offense. So we have them 5th in top stack percentage, but we have essentially 3 stacks at the top and then 5 stacks together, and then San Francisco and Milwaukee at the bottom. So the Mets, you could call them 4th, you could call them 8th. It doesn't really matter. But ownership pretty much in line with where it should be. They do have a pretty high top value percentage as well. Nimmo's only 4K, Marte's cheap. They don't have a single hitter in their DraftKings lineup that even is 5K. Alonso's 4,900. So there is some power upside here still. The problem, like you said, though, is just Hauser doesn't give up a lot of it, and he's getting a nice park shift. Sub 100 expected ISO to righties this year, 139 to lefties. So from a power standpoint, it's not even like you can really look to the splits. It's more so just these guys are cheap. Hopefully they string together a bunch of runs against Hauser, get into the bullpen and see what happens.
Anything else from this game?
No.
All right. Prize Pick sponsor of the Deeper Dive, baby. If you're not there yet and you can play there and it's eligible in your state, you sign up, you're getting the first match deposit bonus, 100% up to $100. You deposit 100, now you got 200, right? So if you're like, all right, I've got $100 in here, I want to play 5 cards, 5 pick flex plays because you're just taking over under on player props for whatever sports you want, throwing them into a lineup, letting it rip. You want to play 5 of those for $20. Well, now you can play 10 of them. Or you throw 20 in, you want to play 5 or 4 of them for $5. Now you can play 8. It matches it, it doubles it immediately, and all of that money you can play with straight away. Also, not to bury the lead, you get a free month of every single one of our tools when you sign up at Prize Picks. So here I was talking about the top stack tool, the top pitchers tool, the top batters tool, ownership projections. That's just baseball. But there's MMA, there's PGA, all of the tools for that, for NASCAR, for tennis, you name it. Might feel like the dog days of summer without basketball and NFL. We have a ton of sports going and a ton of monster prize pools every day, every single week. All of the tools, $120 value, including the MLB lineup generator, including the PGA lineup generator, including the premium Discord. All of it free, $120 value when you sign up at Prize Picks using the link in the description or the one in chat. Otherwise, we can't find you. But yeah, check it out. And on Prize Picks too, unlike traditional parlays at other sports books, if you only hit 4 of 5, you still 2x. You don't lose everything. You 10x if you hit 5 of 5. If you go for a 6-pick play, and follow Josh's picks on this, by the way, he's been on an absolute heater lately. You go 6-pick flex play, you go 6 of 6, 25x. And you still make money back if you don't hit all 6. So check it out. Free month, everything we have on the site. Also, first match deposit bonus, $100, up to $100. It's as easy a no-brainer as you're going to get. Check it out at Prize Picks. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and if Prize Picks isn't available to you, got the same thing at BetMGM. You deposit $10 through the link down there. You get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. We do it because we think you're going to win and you're going to stick around. So why not give you a free month to see if you love it? And if you hate it, you can bounce. No risk to you. You're also getting a $1,000 risk-free bet over at BetMGM on top of that. So win-win, whether you're in a Prize Picks or a BetMGM state, free month coming your way, baby. Must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Houston, St. Louis, JP France. Yeah, sorry, Josh. 0-2 today. Well, that's okay. You know, sometimes we got to reset. Houston and St. Louis, JP France, Adam Wainwright. Adam Wainwright, I mean, you want to talk about just a complete precipitous drop, falling off the cliff style for Adam Wainwright. No swinging strike stuff anymore. If he's not getting weak contact, he's shot.
Yeah, and he hasn't been great at that either. It's not like it's unexpected. The dude's old, but not like you said, he's just not been good this year. Striking out 10.9% of hitters, like that is an accomplishment. It's actually not even the worst of anybody that went today. It's a little bit better than Yanni Chirinos, but just really bad. 1.5 home runs per 9, 5.63 xFIP. You've seen it coming for years, and it's finally here for him. The biggest issue has been that lefties are destroying him. Fortunately for him, Houston doesn't have a ton in the way of left-handed power. Kyle Tucker looks fantastic. 450 expected WOBA, 279 expected ISO to lefties with a 10% K rate. This park has been the second worst for left-handed power over the last 3 seasons, so that works in Wainwright's favor too. But it's still just so tough to have any confidence in him, for one, and it's still not like it's an easy matchup, especially against the top of this Houston lineup.
It's crazy. JP France, have you seen his his expected ISO against lefties?
Yeah, and then I've also seen it against righties.
I know, I'm just saying, as a righty.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
My guess is, well, so 2 things. One, he's throwing his change up to lefties and not to righties. It's the second most used pitched.
Yeah.
But
you need
also,
that if you're going to limit an ISO to that number. Yeah.
Right. But also his fastball is getting lit up by righties and not by lefties. My guess on that is that it's a command thing, that he probably has either better arm side command or better glove side command than the other. And so, like, for example, he's able to get it in on lefties and where he wants to, and then he tries to go in on righties and it leaks back out over the middle and they crush it, or the opposite, whichever it may be. So that's my guess since you see it on the fastball being so different. The overall numbers, you also add in that he has a changeup that has been really good against lefties, whereas the pitches he throws the second and third most to righties are his cutter and his slider, and they both still get lit up.
So do we want to target him with righties today? Are we interested in some lefties? What are your thoughts for these St. Louis bats?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are pretty interesting. Don't know if they'll have Arenado. I know he left yesterday's game early. I didn't see why or what the prognosis was, but if he's not in the lineup, that does make it look a little bit worse. But Goldschmidt's going to look really good. Contreras looks really good as a catching option. You have a cheap Jordan Walker. The Young's going to be fine at shortstop. From a stacking perspective, if you mix in a cheap Nootbaar or Donovan or Gorman, whatever it may be, that's fine. But individually, I think Goldschmidt's the clear top guy. And then getting to some Contreras, some Jordan Walker, some DeYoung makes sense as well.
Okay. Do you have any interest in France today?
Only in the sense that it's like you have to roster 2 pitchers on DraftKings. He's getting 15% ownership at 8K. He's comparable in terms of top 2 pitcher percentage to Sheehan at, he's at 22%, Sheehan's at 20%. So it is kind of interesting that even though he's $600 more, but he's getting like half the ownership of the guy in Coors Field. But at the same time, I can't really argue with it either. Like, the Rockies offense as a whole isn't as good as the Cardinals. They have a similar implied run total despite the difference in park, and Sheehan's probably more talented than France. So yeah, it's just, if there were like 10 games on this slate, I wouldn't have said a word about France.
Yeah, 15% ownership right now. We have him 22% top 2 pitcher probability on DraftKings. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I get, look, 19% K rate.
To put the pitcher stuff in context, like, yeah, he's getting 15% ownership. He has a 22% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. On DraftKings, Scherzer projects for 19 DraftKings points. Bassett projects around 13. Walker's next at 11.7. France at 11.5. Sheehan at 10.5. Like, you were talking about pitchers that on most slates would project to be like the 3rd lowest scoring pitcher on the slate, and they're all competing for the 2nd highest on the slate. So it's really more like, normally when you see ownership numbers like that, you see top 2 pitcher percentages like that, the thought is like, wow, like there's a bunch of solid pitchers going today. Here it's that there are no solid pitchers going today, and they're all competing with each other.
What do you think the average drop off and strikeout rate is coming from AAA to the majors?
I don't know.
I know. I'm saying if you had, educated guess.
Yeah, I would guess from AAA to the majors, probably like
5%. 5, right? 5.
Yeah, like 28 to 23.
Yeah, listen to his strikeout rate at AAA last year, the year before, and then in 19 innings this year. 31, 28, and 34. And that's 80 innings, 110 innings, and then 19 innings this year. He's at 18.8% at the majors.
Yeah, I remember talking about him earlier in the season because I didn't know what to make of him because he'd always had good strikeouts numbers in the minors. It's not even like this was, out of nowhere.
Right.
But he's 28 years old. And so it was like, all right, this guy's been striking out tons of hitters at every level. He's been at AAA since 2021. They obviously see something about him that they think isn't going to play at the major league level or he'd have been up. And I think we're seeing it.
Yeah. That's a good point for how long he was there. I don't know. Anything else on this game?
No, both offenses look good. Both pitchers look playable in the sense that you're playing garbage no matter what on this slate. But it seems like an appealing offensive game. 10-run total, 95 degrees in St. Louis. Ball should carry better than it normally does.
Hey, we're 9 likes away from 100, and we got 500 people watching. So are there 9 of you out there willing to be so generous with a few seconds of your time? Get us north of that 100 mark. It would feel good. Appreciate you in advance. I expect to be there momentarily. I expect us to be there. Philly.
I did want to add also, because I talked about how bad Wainwright is against lefties and then pointed out that there's really 2 lefties. There literally is 2 lefties in the Houston lineup. The natural follow-up to that, a lot of times I think would be like, oh, maybe Wainwright's a decent play. He hasn't been good against righties. He has a 12% strikeout percentage against righties, 181 expected ISO, 346 expected WOBA. Those numbers are unbelievably better than lefties, but they're still like as bad as it gets.
Exactly. Yeah. You're just saying he hasn't gotten crushed by righties, but the upside against righties still hasn't been there.
Right. Like if you're playing Wainwright today, it is purely whatever, throw shit at the wall, hope that it sticks, and this is the right guy. But I just wanted to follow that up in case, because like a lot of times when you say something like that, the next sentence is, so I actually like him here. Still don't like him.
No, I got you. Man, what you really need from Wainwright, first of all, he should be cheaper than he is, even on a 5-game slate.
Retire.
What?
I said, first of all, he should retire.
Well, yes, but he's not ready. You need him to go like 7 innings, get a few looking strikeouts, and just not give up power, because
right,
he could get there, but his outs to get there, the path to get there is so limited. He can't give up 4 runs and have a good game.
Right. It's very similar to Adrian Hauser, except Hauser's at least better at getting outs.
Right.
But it's like if you get there, and they're both playable on this slate because they're cheap and there's no opportunity cost to the position. But if you get there, it's very unlikely to be he ran good and got a couple extra strikeouts or whatever. Like you need that specific 1-run, 2-run, 7-inning game. Yes. Because once they give up, and this is why we talk a lot about their safety in strikeouts, even in bad matchups compared to, non-strikeout pitchers in good matchups. If they just simply pitch well, but give up a few unlucky hits, ground balls that get through, give up 3 runs, it's hard for them just to make those 6 points back up because they don't strike anybody out.
Yeah. Yeah. You need a poor man's Marcus Stroman game with the win.
Right.
I don't think it's going to happen, but who knows? Maybe it will.
Right. I mean, but again, with this slate, you could very easily, the second best scorer on the slate could just literally score 10 points.
Right. But also, and last thing on this, let's not ignore the fact that we're not saying like, oh yeah, he could get there. This is the Detroit Tigers, like right. Of course he can get there against the Tigers. Oh yeah, he's going up against Oakland. He's not good, but the matchup's solid. And for that reason, on a 5-gamer, it makes sense. And he's still going up against Houston.
Yeah. The only 2 pitchers, in addition to almost every pitcher on this slate sucking, the only 2 pitchers that are in like above average matchups are the only good pitcher on the slate, Scherzer, and the one pitching in Coors Field.
Yeah. Philly and Chicago just crushed 100 likes, by the way, 128. Thanks, guys. I knew we'd do it. Philly and Chicago. All right. Philly, and yeah, all that smoke and shit is coming from the Midwest out to us. I mean, great stuff. Philly minus 115, 10-run total in this game. Do we have wind blowing out at Wrigley?
I don't think it should be enough to matter.
Walker and Hendricks, it's a 10-run game.
Yeah, well, they're not very good. Wind's blowing
Walker's
out like
been very
it looks
good
like
late.
it looks like 5 miles an hour.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying these guys are studs by any stretch, but 10 runs is still a lot of runs. Walker's been fantastic lately, man. I honestly, I'm not saying that this continues throughout the rest of the season, and he's always been kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna say he does this every year.
I was gonna say he's always been erratic. He's always been unpredictable. Listen to his last 4 starts though: 7 innings, no runs, 8 Ks, easy matchup against Detroit. 5 innings scoreless with 5 Ks against the Dodgers. 7 1-run innings, 8 Ks against Oakland. 6 1-run innings, 5 Ks against the New York Mets. And he's done it with wild efficiency, limiting his pitches. All I'm saying, if he is on one of those runs, because we know that he's weird like that, he's over. This last month of his has been very, very good.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think he's a pretty solid play today just because he's not any worse than anybody other than Scherzer. Like I said, we have him projected third behind Bassett. We have like double the ownership almost going to Bassett, 32% to Bassett, 17.5% to Walker. They're comparable enough, especially when you're also getting an $800 discount to Walker. I'm not super confident in him. The Cubs have a 4.9 implied run total still. But again, in the context of the slate, the only team below 4 is the Brewers. The Giants are at 4. The next lowest implied run total is the Rockies in Coors Field at 4.6. So the Cubs having a 4.8 to 4.9 implied run total isn't that concerning. Walker has a very similar strikeout rate to Bassett, who again is getting double the ownership. He's been better in terms of xFIP this year. He's giving up less home runs per 9 innings. Walk rate is a little bit higher, but nothing too drastic. He's equally as good or bad as Bassett. And like you said, at least he's been pitching well. Like maybe he figured something out. Probably didn't, but maybe.
Corey Ballmer said, I once won 100K in NBA only to be stat corrected 20 minutes after the slate was over. Guy in second had a 20 lineup train that passed me.
That's brutal.
Hopefully you didn't win 100K.
Hopefully you at least knew that you can double check the stats on ESPN like as soon as the game ends and know if you're going to get stat corrected.
Yeah.
At least hopefully you knew it was coming. Like if I win a tournament, I just spend the next 5 minutes on ESPN figuring out if it's going to hold.
But yeah, but sometimes they do weird stuff. If it's like a late game steal, they take it away after the game's over.
Yeah, but what ends up happening like 99% of the time is it's just DraftKings matching ESPN stats.
Right. But I meant like if you were following it and right after the game you went there and everything looked good, 10 minutes later, could they not change it on you?
ESPN typically doesn't. Like you'll
Pretty
get it
good about that.
You'll get it a few minutes later with the steal, but like normally once the ESPN game ends, it's done, and then it's just a matter of how long does it take DraftKings to look like that. So like whenever I win, I just hold my breath and go through ESPN and hope that nobody behind me is about to get more points.
But that's like the roughest. Neil said our Neil Orfield, is he up next with Greg? Is it Greg and Eric? Greg and Eric coming up live. He said one of the more brutal stat corrections I've heard of. Yeah, maybe the worst. That sucks, dude.
Oh yes, as far as stat corrections for sure.
I mean, imagine the bliss of the guy who passed him too.
Right. Yeah. And then also again, like you're not just going from like 100 to 30 or whatever. You're just going 100 to like 500 or 100K to like $500.
Yeah, he's sitting there, just mesmerized by his good fortune that he had a 20 dummy lineups,
right,
and forgot to set him that day. Damn, dude, that's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, Corey, get it back tonight, man. You never know. It's almost one of those stories that seems too crazy to be true. Like when, I'm not saying it is, I'm not calling you a liar, but like when the guy we were on the strategy show the one day and he's like, yo, I'm on the Schuylkill Expressway and I hear a guy listening to the strategy show in the car next to me. It's like, no, you don't. Guarantee you don't.
Absolutely not.
No. And then he's like, I put my window down and said, yo, I'm listening too. And I was like, well, how'd you hear it with the window up?
Right.
Same guy, by the way, and he must have thought I forgot, but there's a steel trap up here somehow. Like 4 months before that said he got in an Uber and his Uber driver was listening to it. Like, no, he's not.
I have heard you in an Uber.
What do you mean?
I've been in an Uber when you've come on Sirius.
That's different.
Back like years ago.
That's different though, I think.
Yeah, definitely different than this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's different for sure. Yeah. All right. So Walker and Hendricks. Let's get through the pitchers first, then we'll get into some bats here. Again, 10-run total in this game. Philly with a 5.5 run implied total. Chicago at 5.1. What is what you? I think you mentioned it, but what is Walker's ownership in top?
It's like 17.5%. His most obvious comparison is Bassett, who's about 32%.
Walker also, we also have him at 22.2% top two probability in the top pitchers tool as well, though.
Yeah, they're really similar. Yeah, we have Bassett at 28%, Walker at 22. So again, Bassett looks better, but not double the ownership better. So and that's not to say that like Bassett's a bad play. It's just to say that if you have a lineup where you have some chalkier hitters and you're trying to decide between those two, maybe in that lineup you want to get to Walker.
Walker's the same price as Scherzer on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, on FanDuel, I think you're just playing a ton of Scherzer.
Yeah.
Especially like he's getting 48% ownership on this slate. Like I would not mind at all just jamming Scherzer in and hoping he just hits his projection. Because if he does, he's probably the highest scorer on the slate.
Sure. Taijuan Walker, 3% on FanDuel right now.
Yeah, he's probably the most interesting pivot because of that. You know, he's only 3%. Like Bassett, again, he's the second best projected player, but you're getting less than half or less than double the ownership. Looking at Scherzer, like he projects so much better than Bassett. I would rather just go Scherzer, but with Walker, you're kind of getting the same thing. You know, he projects a little bit behind Bassett, but very, very similar range of outcomes. At least there, you're getting a 15-1 ownership this year.
Walker's also kind of one of those guys, though, too, that if he's not getting if he's not going deep into a game, you could be in trouble because he only has a 20% strikeout rate on the season. So,
yeah.
What do you want to do with bats? Take either side you want, man.
I like them both. I prefer the Philly side. 5.1 implied run total. Kyle Hendricks somehow still hanging around in the majors. Not likely to be that good anymore. Limited sample this year, 170 expected ISO to righties, or lefties rather, sub 100 to righties. Going back to last year, 124 to righties, 227 to lefties. I do think you're looking first to the left-handed bats. That's not to say that Turner, Castellanos, Real Muto can't do damage, but Kyle Schwarber is going to look really good. Harper looks good. Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh both in the lineup hitting 6-7. So you have a pretty solid lineup here against Hendricks. I do like the Cubs, or the Phillies rather. They are third in top stack percentage. I'd mentioned earlier that you had three teams one team clearly at the top, two more teams distinctly in second and third, and then just a bunch of teams together. The Phillies are that team in third, and then the Cubs are one of those teams that are just bunched together where, Taijuan Walker is a pretty average pitcher. The Cubs do have some decent hitters in their lineup, but they don't look quite as good as the Phillies.
You know who might have had the worst beat?
Yes.
Who?
Manny?
Yep.
Yeah.
You knew exactly where I was going with that.
Oh, yeah. That was as bad as it gets.
That is one of those beats where if I'm around him, I go, listen, dude, give me your belt and shoelaces.
Right.
This is for you. I promise.
That was one where I still remember where I was, and it wasn't with him. So like there was no it wasn't going to affect my day if he won that. I just remember I was like out at a sports bar with my friends watching and saw the play and like felt bad.
In first place, $4 million in a game that was, I believe it was out of contention. It was no longer a competitive game, right? I think it was like Jacksonville, Arizona or something.
It was definitely Arizona. I don't remember who the other team was.
All he needed was I think it was he just needed the kickoff to happen. The game ends. The game ends on that play. And I believe they fumbled the kickoff trying to do something wild. It was recovered by the defense for 2 points and took him out of first, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was, and it was in the Millie Maker, so it was a $900,000 swing.
It wasn't even 1 million to 250. I think it was to like 100
to 100. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. 1 million to 100, and yes, the people that go, oh, it's still 100. Of course, yeah, but if you were, okay, ready? What do you think the You know how there's always like win probability for teams in games?
Yeah.
When what do you think the win percentage would have been for him if they had that up there, like the win probability?
So probably not as low as you're thinking, or as I would have said, just
I
because,
would say like 90.
right, just because that play was like always going to be lateral.
Yeah. Right. But I don't think they could tie or win with the touchdown. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember realizing it was going to happen before it happened. Like as they
Okay,
went
so maybe it was.
like as they went to return the kick, just kind of being like, oh shit, like they need to like fumble this out of bounds.
Jeez, dude. I remember I was sitting in my computer. I was about to do. He had to come on and do a serious show with me after.
Oh
that.
my God.
Needless to say, it wasn't the best show. Anyway, and I wouldn't blame anyone for not being in a good spot after that. Ready to wrap this up with Dodgers in Colorado?
Yeah.
All right, Dodgers, Colorado. Let's get into Emmett Sheehan for a second. 28% ownership on DraftKings, $7,400. This is at Coors. It's not your same Rockies team that you just fade every pitcher going against them. You know, I get that. My background looks like I've got a crucifix back there. I just realized that, like a massive crucifix. Do you see that?
On the right-hand side?
Yeah. It's just the soffit and then the black drop ceiling, but it clearly looks like I just have a massive cross. All right, so let's dive into this for a second here, because Emmett Sheehan has had 2 solid starts to major league level. You know my quarrels with this guy. He struck out 16.7% of batters through his first 2 appearances. He also has a 7% swinging strike rate. And I'll take this a step further, because we are still pitching at Coors Field, where strikeouts are even harder to come by. I mean, Kershaw had a great start the other day, only struck out 2, right? 68% fly balls, 25% ground ball rate, 16% contact, soft contact for Emmett Sheehan. So I'm just throwing it out there that if that continues today, could be in a little bit of trouble. And he's very popular.
Yeah, he had great numbers at Double-A, striking out like 41.7% of hitters. He projects rest of season to strike out 22 to 24%, depending where you look. He kind of like Keaton Wynn projects, at least from a strikeout standpoint, to be one of the best strikeout pitchers on this slate. But still probably not entirely ready for the major leagues. Like you said, we haven't seen strikeouts from him yet. You expected a big drop anyway, jumping from Double-A, but also rest of season projects for like a 4.5 FIP. So it's not like he's one of these young guys coming up and just projecting to be great right out of the gate. So it's still a really risky spot. It's still Coors Field. The Rockies aren't good, but still going to hit better here than on the road. But at the same time, he's only 7,400. So you're getting a discount off of Bassett and Taijuan Walker. And I mentioned it before, the Rockies have the 3rd lowest implied run total on the slate. Milwaukee, San Francisco, Rockies. So it's really not, it's risky, but it's not any worse than like almost any other spot on the slate.
No, and I get that. But in the same breath, like Rocky's bats are still interesting to me here, given what we've seen from him through his first 2 appearances.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. 3rd lowest aggregate ownership for the Rockies. They're in Coors Field. Like, yeah, they're the 3rd lowest run total on the slate, but we're not talking about massive differences here outside of the Dodgers. These other teams have implied run totals like maybe a half run higher than the Rockies. So it's not like a crazy difference there. You do have CJ Cron back, so that's another power hitter in this lineup. Ryan McMahon, actually, I had noticed him yesterday. I was looking up stats for Gunnar Henderson. McMahon is one of 4 hitters in baseball that has both a higher hard contact percentage and a lower soft contact percentage than Henderson. He's been really good in both of those categories. He's reasonably priced. Profar leading off is cheap. You have a catcher batting cleanup in Coors, so that's pretty nice. It's not a good offense overall, but this is a pitcher that very realistically just couldn't be very good right now. He's probably average-ish, but really could just be worse. Like it's not like that'll be the first time where you see somebody jump from Double-A to the majors and just not be anywhere close to as good.
Right. And then sometimes they come back the next year and they are good.
Right. It's a pretty high percentage, because normally if you're going to let somebody jump from Double-A to the majors, it's a talent thing where it's like, okay, like you're already that talented. You come up, you hit a wall, you go back to AAA, but like you're still super talented. You're probably going to figure it out.
Remember Tyler Glass now? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking at the minor league level. He was down there, came up and struggled mightily at times. Went back down, and now he's just, I know this season he hasn't been spectacular, but the strikeout stuff for him is just out of this world. So yeah, it can happen to anybody for sure. Do you think Dodgers bats getting right now 30% top stack probability in the top stack tool? 30%. 19.5% aggregate stack ownership, 21 stack score. That's by far the highest. No surprise here. Is there any unique way to play them today?
Yeah, so I think this is where the slate size, I think, makes it so much different than the last couple of slates. The Dodgers are still far and away the top stack today, just like they have been. Like you said, 30% chance of being the top stack. Yesterday, with 26 teams playing, they were like 21%. We have them going under-owned. I'm a little skeptical on the Dodgers hitter ownership here in that right now we have Betts at 23.5%, Muncy and Freeman at 22 and 23. That's less than Betts was getting yesterday. That's less than Will Smith had yesterday. I'm not entirely sure, but at the same time, one big takeaway that I had noticed from these last couple of games, yeah, the Dodgers were clearly the most popular team, but you were getting not as much ownership as you would have expected, especially on the like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith guys. Like you were getting a lot yesterday, for example, of Texas hitters similarly owned to the non-stud Dodgers hitters. So there is certainly a chance that you see the field, like we've seen plenty of times over the last year and a half, overcorrect and maybe not play the Dodgers as much as their top stack percentage suggests that they should. So overall, I do think it's likely they're going a bit under-owned here. But the other thing that makes it interesting and tough, and why when I did my Sims video earlier, at least, the Dodgers were being handled completely differently. Yesterday in the Sims tool, when I did it, early in the afternoon, like I did today, the Dodgers 5-man stacks were just far and away coming in the most popular as what you should be playing the most. And the reason is just that it was still so easy to get teams that were relatively low owned overall, because you could go to 5% owned pitchers on yesterday's slate, but also like every other stack was 3 to 5% owned, so you could pair them with pretty much anybody and have a relatively low owned team. Today you can't do that because pretty much every team is going to get ownership because of it being a 10-game slate. You have Milwaukee 3.5% aggregate ownership. Next lowest is San Francisco at 5.5%. It becomes more difficult when if you play 5 guys from a stack that are 15 to 25% owned. It becomes a lot more difficult to find those low owned guys. So the big difference has been the Dodgers hitters showing up more as one-offs, 2-mans, 3-mans, as opposed to the 5-man stacks that we were getting to yesterday.
Absolutely. 5 up, 5 down. You got Greg and you got Eric coming up next. Looking at the lineup generator before we go, where generates lineups for you. It's already throwing out all the bad stuff. It's running thousands of simulated lineups and it's giving you the good ones. That's that simple, right? You're locking in. If you want to lock in players, you can. You don't have to. You can select all lineups are chalky, balanced, contrarian. You can set your stack types, or you can go to all stacks. However you want to play it, we got you covered. And then once you go in, and Jordan's throwing this up on the screen, you scroll down, you can see the projection, right? The optimal projection. And you can also see the ownership. How chalky or contrarian is it going to be? You can swap players out as well. But I'm looking at it now. You got Max Scherzer. And by the way, we've had several guys with massive wins with the lineup generated just over the last week. We don't have time to throw those screenshots up there, but I think I've shouted them out enough. 10,000, 50,000 using the lineup generator. Scherzer, Keaton Wynn is the first lineup to pop up with a 5-man Dodger stack. Elias Diaz, and then Madrigal and Trey Turner. You can save and discard them too. So like if you discard these lineups, Jordan, I told you to go slow, dude. And you just ripped through those. You discard a lineup, or you can save them. You save them, upload them to CSV, or you can do it. It's optimized for mobile as well. JP France, Chris Bassett lineups with a 5-man Houston stack. Scherzer, Keaton Wynn again with a 5-man Dodger stack. Yeah, I mean, no surprise we're seeing a lot. Here's a 4-4 Dodgers, Houston with France and Emmett Sheehan. Do you think you're going to have a decent amount of lineups? Just looking at some of these that are popping up. Like this one's pretty contrarian, looking at ownership. and it doesn't project as high as optimal as a lot of the others. Do you think you're going to see a lot of lineups pop up for you that are two cheaper pitchers?
A decent amount, yeah. So the only basis I really have is having run the Sims tool for my video earlier. But Scherzer was in like half the lineups in that, and then it was just kind of mixing up the cheap pitching elsewhere. So you're still going to get a decent chunk where it doesn't have Scherzer. And when you think about what like a 5-man Dodger stack would likely look like, getting away from the 50% owned pitcher is probably a pretty good move. Also, if you're going to one of the more popular second stacks, whether that's Houston getting almost as much ownership as the Dodgers, Philadelphia. So, I think the one you just showed was a Houston stack that didn't have Scherzer. With teams like that, that's where it's going to make the most sense.
Yeah, it was a 4-man Houston, 4-man Dodger stack. So
okay,
for
then
sure,
yeah, like a team like that, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. 11K for Scherzer. So yeah, just paying up for bats is going to get you off of him there. $4.48 for the first week. Nothing to lose. You spent $5, less than $5 on a lot dumber shit. I can assure you of that. You want to check it out for yourself. Maybe you're having a tough time. Maybe it's been rough and you're like, hey, what can it hurt to try it out for $4.48? See if maybe this can change my fortune around a little bit, because there's a lot of baseball season left. You don't want to keep struggling. $4.48 for the first week. Link is in the description. Link is in chat. Check that out. All right, Adam, before we go and turn this over, top 2 pitchers today. Well, Scherzer, we know that. Favorite pitcher behind Scherzer, and top 2 stacks that aren't the Dodgers.
Honestly, I think my favorite pitcher behind Scherzer is Wynn. And that has very little to do with Wynn and more to do with everybody else. Other than that, it's Bassett, but again, it's a tough spot. He doesn't look great. Favorite stacks other than the Dodgers, Houston and Philly.
Okay. I'll throw the Rockies in there too. I think Sheehan could get. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Rockies are certainly up there as far as like contrarian low owned stacks.
Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Remember, free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Whether you want to sign up at Prize Picks, deposit, get 100% deposit match bonus too, or bet MGM if that's in your state. Deposit $10 and bet 10. You got a free month of everything, and first bet insurance up to $1,000. So we got you covered on everything. The full month, every sport, down there in the description. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Stick around. Greg and Eric coming up next for Live Before Lock. Good luck tonight. Well, it's that time of week again, and we've got some monster new inductees into the Stochastic Hall of Fame. A huge week across the board, and we're going to go over all of them. And all you got to do to get involved, download that Stochastic avatar. It's stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. $120 value, more than anything, really. Crowning achievement of your life. Get inducted right here into the Hall of Fame. We do a new one every single Monday, and let's get it started with a huge win from Lyle Peel. Took this down the lineup. Let me rephrase how he wanted to say it. Took this down with the lineup generator. Love to see it. $4.48 for the first week, by the way. First takedown ever. LP Focus, $10,000 in the Mighty Micro Mini Max. Congratulations, Lyle. That's awesome, especially seeing that you did it with the lineup generator. And this made me even more excited. Mitchell Kemp, literally my first day with the Stochastic MLB Sims tool. See, we got tools for everybody. Hit my biggest MLB DFS hit. Great product, already paying off. Thanks for the great content. Congrats, Mitchell. And notice, right under Lyle, right under LP Focus in that same contest for a sweet $5,000. And Ryan Carter took down the relay throw tonight, single bullet. Y'all are the best site out there, in my opinion. $50,000 for Letus Brutalis, single entry into the relay throw. Barry Watts, second week using the Sims tool. First 5-figure win, $10,000 in the 80K ball four. Congrats, man. That's awesome. $10,500, second place to Barry Watts. And Adam Scherer back on the board, baby. MLB is for masochists. Golf is easy. $750 in the $20,000 in the showdown. Round 1, I believe, for Adam. $20,000 to our boy Ship My Money. And Miami Heat, 4 more till history. Well, that name's got to be changed, huh? But anyway, Bama Jones, congrats, man. Had a little stack correction. first place $1,200 in the Wednesday MLB Bunt single entry contest. Big win there. And Greg Ehrenberg, our own Greg Ehrenberg, lost out on a chance for first when the Angels pinch hit for Trout, but it was still a solid night with some help from, believe it or not, the MLB Sims tool. It's Stokastic.com. $5,000 for our boy Greg. And Keith, thanks again for the awesome tools. $300. Second place in the 6K solo shot. Congrats, Keith. XFL expert, or El Cuatro Loco 88 UFC 10K flying knee, takes home $1,000 and says, if I do nothing else in DFS, can at least say I won a contest that had Alex Baker and Greg Ehrenberg. Next up, we got our boy David. Thank you, EMAC, for your top plays article. 50 cents in the 1,500. That article is free, by the way, on the site every single day. Congratulations, David Colasanto. And then two more. MF Chooch. Chooch 724 just says his name with an exclamation point. $1,500, little NASCAR action here. Congrats to you. And Jason Sweden, 25 cents in the 42.50. Thanks for the help and all you guys do. Cheers in the MLB Showdown 2K quarter jukebox. Remember, want to get up on the board, get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, get inducted in the Hall of Fame by yours truly right here. Download the avatar at Stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. And join us right here in the Stokastic Hall of Fame. See you back here for the next one.
Yeah, that's what the money that your parents gave you will go towards.
It's so nice of them. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. About time.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. Today, we're sponsored by Prize Picks. We're going to be talking a little bit more of them as we go. And also, only 5 games on the slate, so any questions you guys have, throw them into the YouTube chat, throw them into Discord at me if you're asking me a question in Discord so that I don't miss it. And then also, as for Prize Picks, they're sponsoring our show. If you sign up using the link below, Eric, you are not only going to get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit, but you are also going to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. So all the more reason to go and sign up over at Prize Picks if you haven't done it already, because it's just going to cost you nothing to sign up. You just use the link, you make a deposit, 1 free month Stokastic Plus Platinum, up to $100 on your first deposit. So you're getting lots of value when you sign up at Prize Picks using our link. And then also, we got a fun 5-game slate today, Eric. How are you feeling about it?
I feel okay about it. Obviously, we have very condensed chalk. It's a condensed slate. I don't know. The last 2 13 and 15 gamers haven't gone too well for me. So I think having a course slate with only 5 of them, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, we've got the Dodgers at Coors Field. We've got the worst pitching options imaginable. The worst pitching options imaginable. Chris Bassett could even worse than what you and I thought about Domingo Germán last night. Potentially the worst stage. I can't believe I only had 3 people calling me a moron on Twitter last night, because you and I undercutting the field on somebody who pitched a perfect game has to be an all-time just fuck up in terms of outing.
I went back and listened to my Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks breakdown of Oakland and New York the night before. Because again, in the streets over on Odd Shopper, in the betting streets, people, they generally like to let you know the one thing you get wrong. I made another 4+ units yesterday, smashing again, having the best month of betting maybe ever when it comes to MLB. But yet, I had the audacity to say that Domingo Germán should no longer be viewed as as an even average starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, and that it's a joke that people would be hanging these kind of lines with the Oakland Athletics. And yes, I had a half unit on the money line for Oakland last night. Oh, that was $100 I'm never going to see again. It's fun.
Good times. So one thing that's funny also is, so Josh Engelman last night comes in second and third in the $15 relay last night. I go to look up his exposures, and we actually had nearly identical exposure to Domingo Germán last night. He was also well underway to the field on Germán, but just his best lineups ended up
on through.
But oh my God, Domingo Germán absolutely made me look like a fool, which we're going to be from time to time, especially when we're breaking down every single slate, every single night. Me hosting the show, basically every day of the entire year, whether it be MLB or NBA. And boy, oh boy, we're on the wrong side of a fuck up last night. And I would be remiss if I did not point out that Eric and we were wrong yesterday in a massive way. And please make fun of us for it.
They're going to make fun of us anyway.
Yeah, most likely. But this time it's even more deserved than normal. No?
Yeah. It's incredible. It was just a wild slate overall yesterday. It was pretty wild to get 17 runs out of Coors when I was pretty heavy on it and get annihilated. Get absolutely steamrolled. Like, legitimately, all the chalk crushed. And it was still just a difficult. Yeah, it was a really weird slate. You got on Logan Allen, who was off to a good start and then just couldn't get out of innings. And now he's back. He got optioned today, which I thought was a pretty wild run out for him. 3 quality starts to start off the month, and then 3 outings against the Padres. And then, yesterday against Kansas City, he just had 30 and 40 pitch innings. It was weird stuff to watch, but Domingo Germán might have gotten that one wrong.
Yeah, the Logan Allen thing is I assume, just trying to limit his innings. So he'll probably go and pitch shorter stints in the minor leagues, and then he'll come up later in the year as the Guardians push for the playoffs. Because it's basically where if he keeps pitching now, they're not going to have him available if they were to make it to the playoffs. And I assume this is what they need to do to meet whatever the restrictions the medical team
That's fair. And Quantrill gets back, I think, tomorrow or Saturday, one of the two. I was breaking down some pitchers coming up forward for my year-long league, for betting tomorrow. I tell you what, I don't know what I do other than baseball right now. It's a lot of baseball this time of year. A lot of baseball. Well,
it's really only baseball this time of year. Like, what else? I do, we do a PGA show together once a week. You do your PGA videos. I do a UFC show by myself on Fridays where I just yell at my camera for 30 minutes and then we put it up. But beyond that, what are we? It's weekly sports. What else is there to really cover?
Why does Jordan Klein dressed up like Tiger Woods today?
Let's see. He's not dressed like Tiger Woods today.
Straight up, it's a Nike. That's the Nike Tiger Red with a black hat. That's 100% T-Woo.
I don't know. This feels borderline racist.
Tiger Klein. No, it's to do with his shirt and hat combination. No,
I think this is nothing but racism. That's my opinion here. But the other thing too with Jordan's attires, this is more or less what he wears every single day on the occasions that he decides that he feels fancy enough to wear sleeves.
Where's the producer cam? Fire it up. Let the people see you. There you are. That's T-Woo. Just hanging out amongst the people. Just, I don't know.
Yeah,
your third leg, Greg.
Comment, so is Jordan.
Did you ever click on the pictures of Tiger Woods?
Which... naked pictures of himself?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't aware of that. That's not something I so I don't even know that's in existence. You would know that. You would be searching and be like, are these the day the pictures dropped? He's Googling every day, hey, finally they showed up. No, I have no clue those even exist.
Third leg, Greg. Yeah, he makes your third leg look like a pinky. That's for sure.
Jordan, were you at all? Do you have any awareness that there are naked pictures of Tiger Woods that exist on the internet? Yeah. No, that's not something I search for regularly, Eric.
NSFW, fam.
Here are the athletes that I am aware a naked picture exists of online. Greg Oden, end of list. Greg
Oden? I don't know that. Greg Oden?
Greg Oden is
Greg
basically...
Oden has nudes?
Greg Oden is just a man attached to a gigantic penis. Yeah, Greg Oden.
Are we immediately? What am I supposed to think about for the next 47 minutes other than do I search for this at the end of the show or do I not?
Your call. Whatever it is that peaks
How
your
emasculated do I want to feel? How emasculated would I like to feel after this show? We will
I'll
find out.
I'll give you a preview of it. That's the preview.
Oh my God.
I gave you all the information you need to know right here. This is the Yeti water bottle, but same deal.
Can you tell it's only a 5-game slate? We're just screwing around right now.
It's 5-game slate.
Yeah.
We got some pitchers to talk about, and there are terrible pitching options.
Yeah.
So we'll start to get into one thing that's nice about the slate. We actually got all of the lineups up before the show started. So I was able to build out all my lineups. I was able to run them through the Sims tool. I've got everything here sorted. I've got everything ready to go. I know what my top 150 lineups are going to be. I know what my exposure looks like. I feel terrible about it, but there's no scenario where I could feel great about it. And let's start diving into it, beginning with pitching. And I think we have to talk about Max Scherzer, who, to be honest, is the only pitcher on this entire slate that I have any degree of confidence in at all. The other pitching options, like Chris Bassett, is popular today. He has been absolute dog shit this year. Then we've got other pitchers in here like Taijuan Walker, JP France. And these are guys who are overpriced in the France scenario. He's also in a fairly tough matchup on the road against St. Louis. Then you got like Emmett Sheehan, who's pitching on the road in Coors Field. So it's just an overview of some of the terrible options we have behind Max Scherzer. If you're playing cash games today, you're playing Max Scherzer on FanDuel, DraftKings Max Scherzer, and then you're finding out whoever it is that works out alongside with him. But Scherzer in large field tournaments, we'll talk about him separately for DraftKings and FanDuel, Eric. But starting with DraftKings, what are you going to do with him in large field tournaments relative to his 60% projected ownership?
I'm going to be over the field. He's 11K. It's not terribly prohibitive because of who I'm getting to the most is my SP2 today. I'm very curious to see who we talk about after Scherzer. He's got a top 2 percentage. He's basically 50-50. You flip a coin, those are the number of times he's going to finish as one of the top 2 scoring pitchers. Now, the question is, can he put up 25 and can you still get by avoiding him on this slate? I'm more inclined to say no today. You look at the Dodgers lineup, you look at the Colorado lineup, they're going to be very, very popular. I think it makes more sense to get away from them today than it has in previous days, just based on what we're seeing from some of the ownership. And you can still get to those teams pretty easily, especially the Colorado side, and still play Max Scherzer. I'm not really all that worried about it, but as it stands right now, I have 68% of him. I think that's probably going to be where I end up landing, just a little bit over the field, not some gigantic stand, but I have zero confidence in trying to hit that next you could tell me any other pitcher finished second on the slate and I would probably believe it. So it's like in those kind of scenarios with Max Scherzer as a 50-50 coin flip, I'm usually inclined to jam more so than not. I'm a little bit surprised I'm only getting to 68% and not north of that, but it's just one of those things where I think the math is just leaning me in that direction.
I'm right around even with the field on Max Scherzer in the lineups I built, like not significantly over or underweight. I'm right there in line with the field at that 58% mark, which I am fine with, particularly because when we are going to be talking about offenses and what to do about the Dodgers in a little bit, the Dodgers who crushed last night and then putting up 9 runs, hitting homers in that spot, still am getting outscored by other teams that put up even more egregious run totals. But I kind of have to talk about this when it comes to pitching also. We have the Dodgers projected with a 30.4% chance to be the top scoring stack on the slate with only 19% ownership. So they are so positively leveraged that almost every other stack rates out poorly for us. So I kind of feel like I have to be getting to the Dodgers, and I don't want to also be like overweight to the field on the Dodgers and then playing like 90% Scherzer. So just kind of even with the field and then mixing and matching some other pitchers.
All right. Well, yeah, it's really hard not to I'm a little bit surprised by our ownership share going towards the Dodgers. I mean, Houston against Adam Wainwright is obviously a good spot too, but it pales in comparison to this Dodgers spot. So yeah, I'm with you. As it stands right now, sweet. But as you move up in high dollar stuff, you know what you're running into, you know what you're getting, you're getting positively leveraged Dodgers, perhaps in large field stuff. It's going to be hard to imagine you're playing the 121 or the $44 or something of that nature, and you're still running into positively leveraged Dodger stacks.
We did get a question. Did this game already start? I didn't look at any of the early
Miami-Boston started, yes.
So we had somebody had asked me about Showdown for an early game, but it looks like it already started. Somebody asked me what I thought about Luzardo in the Showdown contest, but that already started. So, and I also don't really have a strong opinion on it anyway. So, wish I could have helped Hypno Toad, but game is already locked there.
You're a shitty person.
Not me or Hypno Toad.
You.
Oh,
how dare you?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, thank you. I knew you would.
Here's where it gets tricky now. Behind Max Scherzer, I don't feel good about any of the pitching options on the slate. Everything is dog shit. So, like I said, I'm about even with the field on Max Scherzer. Then I'm kind of mixing and matching the pitchers behind him. Like, if I had to pick one to feel the best about, I guess it's kind of Bassett by default, but is there any pitcher you have any semblance of I don't feel great about him either. Is there any pitcher you have a semblance of confidence in behind Scherzer?
No, and I wanted it to be Emmett Sheehan. We talked about him quite a bit. He's had 2 quality starts to start off his big league career, but it's AA numbers. He had a north of 40% K rate at AA, but he completely skipped AAA and the PCL and moved directly into the starting rotation here for the Dodgers. We haven't seen the K rate now at the big league level. He's pitching in Coors. I think the range of outcomes is so wide for him as far as what kind of success he could have here in this spot. But like, I'm still not all that encouraged here at 7,400 to go to him. I mean, I am doing some truly egregious, insane things, I think, at pitching today, where like there are scenarios where you get all the way down to like a Keaton Winn playing, 60 pitches, 65 pitches at 4K. And he's somebody that actually shows up in lineups for me if I run it unencumbered. We're talking 15% ownership that he's projected for, top 2 percentage at 12.3%. I think the only reason I have confidence in him is the price that gives me access to lineups that other people just can't get to. Now, most of those are combined with Scherzer. And so you do have that entire range of like, hey, if you play Sheehan plus JP France, you're running into those type of lineups. But I feel so much better having access to Scherzer along with that kind of a price in my lineups and just trying to win this slate with bats. Like for me, that's kind of the push and pull I'm having with this slate.
So I'm overweight to the field, by the way, on Keaton Winn. And to me, the biggest argument for Keaton Winn is nothing to do with Keaton Winn other than that. If we are in agreement that every pitcher is dog shit on this slate, other than Scherzer, and by the way, like Keaton Winn is not somebody who you have to consider at all on FanDuel, for instance.
Correct. You're not playing him on FanDuel.
You got Keaton Winn is $5,500 on FanDuel and is very unlikely to pick up the quality start bonus. Even probably pretty unlikely to pick up the win bonus because I don't necessarily think he's likely to go through 5 innings. But here's the scenario where I think Keaton Winn could land in an optimal lineup. You get some of the high-priced offenses go out and put up big games. You get Max Scherzer does his thing, scores 20-plus fantasy points. If every other pitcher is just kind of mediocre to not great, and you get like 8 fantasy points out of Keaton Winn, he's the cheapest of all these shitty starting pitchers. It's really just a price point thing. I have no confidence in him having a decent start today, but he's just the cheapest of the shitty pitching options. He's projected for some ownership at 15%, but it's nothing really crazy. So I'm a little bit overweight to Keaton Winn, and it is solely based on his price point and the other pitching options.
100% in agreement. I kind of wanted to jump to him mainly because then I'm holding hands a lot with some of the ownership outside of Scherzer where I'm over the field on. I'm a little bit under on Bassett. I'm a little bit over on Sheehan, even though I am very much against his 4.5K prop that he's got going in Colorado today. Hasn't hit that number back-to-back times at Dodger Stadium. Now he's facing a Colorado team that does have McMahon, does have Tovar that are at the top of this lineup who strike out at a pretty nice clip, but overall 4.5Ks for him here. We haven't seen that translate from AA ball to the majors here yet. But from a real life perspective, from a DFS perspective, even like 6 innings, if you got 6 innings, 3 Ks from him, that is more than enough that I would just lock in on this slate and jump directly to stacks. So like he's got a large range of outcomes. There's no doubt about it. But I think he's probably the guy that's the hardest for me to grasp on this entire slate, what I'm supposed to do with it. Taijuan Walker, we kind of know exactly who he is. I would say out of anybody that I have confidence in just kind of being okay because it is a matchup against the Cubs, because there's enough strikeouts in it. I think he's probably the one that I'm looking at possibly getting to a little bit more of here in my 50 lineups before lock, but God, it is just so dire. So I'm just landing on 28% Keaton win. I think that for me is the spot where it's like, all right, give me 4K. Don't kill me. Just show up and be semi-decent, and then I will go directly to stacks.
And the pitcher that I'm most underweight to right now is Emmett Sheehan. And it's for two reasons. Number one, he's pitching at Coors Field. Two, he's actually really popular today relative to the other pitching options. So if you look at the pitchers, because you had said you're not exactly sure what to do with Emmett Sheehan, I don't know what to do with any of these pitchers. So to me, it's like, hey, this guy is popular. I probably don't really want to play him all that much. This guy's not popular. Cool. I'm probably more interested in the field just because of that, right? If we're flipping coins here, not knowing what's going to happen, at least give me the players who are lower owned. Emmett Sheehan is projected for 25% ownership. He is the third most popular pitcher on the slate, only behind Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett. With that in mind, I'll just come in underweight to the field on Emmett Sheehan because it is not hard to envision a scenario where he pitches in Coors Field and it goes poorly and he's really popular.
I totally get it. I totally get it. I'm completely on board. Again, there's not a whole lot to say other than let's try to find positive leverage where we can. And right now, Adrian Hauser doesn't feel like the ticket for me. I would rather get to JP France. I'd rather get to even Adam Wainwright. I think because of the price point on Adam Wainwright, 6,500, and Adrian Hauser, like I'll turn anything that would have been Hauser into Wainwright. I think that's probably the one spot where I'm just kind of like vehemently against even like 7-8% of Adrian Hauser. But otherwise, because of 5,700, I have a little bit of Chase Anderson, and then Keaton Winn just showing up because to get the bats that I think I want to get to, some of these contrarian stacks that still have expensive bats, the St. Louis's of the world, you got to be paying up for it a little bit. So 4K Keaton Winn, just be decent. That'd be great.
Yeah. So you had mentioned somebody there that I'm actually quite a bit overweight to the field on. The pitcher I'm most overweight to, I want to take a guess who that might be.
Don't say Chase Anderson.
No.
Okay, good. Adam Wainwright?
Yeah. And once again, it's solely because of ownership. He is projected for 6% ownership on a slate where there are other pitchers that I don't feel great about. I don't feel good about Wainwright, but I don't feel good about the other pitchers priced around him that are also picking up ownership. Another thing, too, is that if you look at our top stacks tool, who is the most over-owned team on the entire slate relative to our projections and our ownerships? Well, there's two of them, actually. One is the Chicago Cubs against Taijuan Walker. The other is the Houston Astros going up against Adam Wainwright. So I am getting some leverage by playing Adam Wainwright as well. The same could be said for Taijuan Walker. The Walker's actually somewhat popular today, whereas we're only getting 6% ownership on Adam Wainwright. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm playing the ownership game. I don't like any of these pitching combinations outside of Max Scherzer. So give me Adam Wainwright for very low ownership against an offense that we're projecting to be over-owned.
I get it. Totally get it. It's an uncomfortable click, but that's kind of the case for getting there, is that it's a very uncomfortable click for everybody. It's more for me. I don't believe everybody's going to click on Keaton Winn. I mean, we have 15.1% ownership. I think that's why I'm just kind of landing on him for 2,500 less, but you're getting what? Currently projected 6.3% ownership on Adam Wainwright. I totally get it. I feel better about clicking on him than Adrian Hauser, which is saying something.
Yeah. And actually, it's not really saying that much. This guy's better than Adrian Hauser. The over-under. Did you see the strikeout market for Adrian Hauser?
I saw 2.5 was the line.
Yeah, it's 2.5. So we're not really saying that much. But it's really, if you're looking at unrostered starting pitchers today, you have Chase Anderson. That's a no for me. You've got Adrian Hauser. That's also a no for me. You've got Adam Wainwright. Those are the only three that we have that are projected for no ownership. And of those three, I like Wainwright the most.
I can tolerate Adam Wainwright the most.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about or anything else you like at pitcher?
Yeah, I wanted to give FanDuel people. I am playing a little bit on FanDuel today. I thought that it was an interesting slate to try to break down. You have Taijuan Walker, $200 less, and 1 iota the ownership of Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer over 50% owned on FanDuel, but his top percentage being 20%, I think this is a great opportunity to go to FanDuel and fade Max Scherzer. I don't know who to fade him with. That's kind of more of the discussion point. I ended up landing for my main lineup over there on Chris Bassett. Thought that it made sense even at a quarter of the ownership there. You're still getting negative leverage there, but Again, 12.2% top one percentage. I think $800 is still enough of a difference there to try to mix it up there. But the Max Scherzer play could end up being legitimately 55, 60% owned, depending on what tournaments you're playing on FanDuel today. Probably north of it in single entry. So this is an awesome slate to try to embrace being contrarian at pitcher over there.
Yeah, and I mean, if we go and look at FanDuel, just to give you guys the projected ownerships here. Refresh. All right. Max Scherzer, 52.3% owned on FanDuel. Chris Bassett, 23.2%. No other pitcher is north of 5% owned. No other pitcher. So it's a lot of Scherzer. The other thing, too, about Scherzer on FanDuel is that he's $9,700, so he's also priced down a bit. I find it even more difficult to get away from Scherzer on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings. Like, DraftKings, I'm about even with the field. FanDuel, I find it hard to not get overweight just from the standpoint of he's $9,700. You don't have to pay the same premium for him. But if you had, let's say somebody was playing a single entry lineup.
That's what I was talking about. I was saying for a single entry, I wouldn't play Scherzer. I think it's a great opportunity to not do that.
But do you have one pitcher that you'd feel best about if you were playing that one lineup in single?
Yeah, I mean, currently it's Bassett that's in it. I tried to make a case for Taijuan Walker based on how the Cubs lineup might roll out. They do strike out at a 23.5% clip against right-handed pitching over the course of this season. But this total has just gone up, 9.5, sitting at 10s across the board right now. You get Schwarber, Castellanos, Harper, Real Muto, Stott, Marsh has been smashing baseballs, 51.7% hard hit percentage on this season. Ridiculous stuff. But there is some opportunity there for Kyle Hendricks to maybe have an opportunity to get in there and get after some of these Phillies. And then Taijuan Walker facing those Cubs on the other side. It just feels like with Tauchman now being the guy who's leading off there, Nico Horner, who never strikes out, Christopher Morel finally getting moved up in the lineup. How long did that take? My God. Cody Bellinger's had a tough second half. Well, I guess his second half, considering how hot out of the gate he came, got hurt, and it's just been problematic since. And then I don't recognize half of the people at the bottom of this Cubs lineup. I thought that was a good enough case to maybe get to Taijuan Walker for $200 less. So I'm still kind of deciding.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the stack ownerships on FanDuel and then also looking at the pitchers, and it's a rough go of things. I'm kind of inclined to say if I was playing one lineup on FanDuel, I'd probably just go with Wainwright at pitcher as well and just hope the Cardinals win. Because in a lot of ways, I think that Wainwright has an easier path to success on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings, because he's $6,300 on FanDuel. And a lot of the other pitchers that we've talked about, as being potential options on DraftKings are more expensive on FanDuel. Like Emmett Sheehan is $8,300 on FanDuel. Kyle Hendricks is $8,000. Taijuan Walker is $9,500. Adam Wainwright, if he just gets the win, he has a decent game on FanDuel relative to how that scoring works.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think that's great. 6,300, you're going to get access to a lineup that nobody else is going to be able to jam in and probably shouldn't feel good about in any way, shape, or form. But I don't think when we necessarily get the kind of pitches that are required, I think somebody is going to still go for 35, 40 plus. More than likely, it's going to end up being Scherzer facing this Milwaukee team that we know you can mow down, has a 25.1% K rate on the aggregate for today's lineup with right-handed pitching. So yikes the fade, but I think it's probably worth it in one lineup today. It's what I'm going for right now.
Got a super chat here from Corey Shea. So I'm going to read that off, but also I want to tell you guys that I've got a giveaway going on right now, and it's going to be very easy to potentially win this because we're trying to promote our podcast channel. And if you guys go and leave a 5-star review, I posted this on my Twitter account, reply to my tweet with a picture of the 5-star review you leave for the Stochastic Daily Fantasy podcast channel. And I'm going to pick somebody at random that leaves a review to get 1 free month Stochastic Plus Platinum. Only one person's responded so far. Your odds of winning are very, very high. Just go to our podcast channel, leave a 5-star review on the Apple Podcast, send me a picture on Twitter, and you're entered in a chance to win. And right now, if you go and do it, you have a 50% chance of winning because only one person's responded. He's a shoo-in to win if nobody else answers right now. So go check that out. Give yourself a chance to win. And now let's answer some of the super chats here, starting with Corey Shea. Corey wants to know best value catcher, shortstop, and third baseman for 3,500 and under. All right, so let me go and check out my exposures here.
Mm-hmm.
For me on DraftKings, it's Austin Barnes. I mean, he's $3,000. He's not even projected for that much ownership, 11% there for Austin Barnes. pretty easy answer for me at catcher. How about yourself?
So Yanner Diaz is probably, I would call, a better value going up against Wainwright.
I
have more Yanner Diaz.
I have about twice as much Austin Barnes.
I have about twice as much Yanner Diaz. So there you go.
All right.
He has crazy splits against righties. I hope people tuned in on that before. In AAA at the big league level, the right on right, he is an absolute murderer, and Adam Wainwright throws softballs. So definitely, I'm going to side at the Yanner Diaz side.
Couple different options there. Shortstop's a tough one because if it was 3,600, the answer would really easily be Tovar. But he says 3,500 and under. So if it has to be 3,500 and under, our only options are Brandon Crawford, Bryce Terang, and Paul DeYoung. And I have the most of Brandon Crawford, but I'm not really getting too much of any of these cheap shortstops.
No, nor should you. I would probably go Terang now that he's back. Good to see him work through some things. 927 OPS there when he went back to AAA. So that's good stuff. I would say it's Terang, but I don't feel good about it.
Third base for me, I'm going to go with Nick Madrigal at $2,100. Although also not any options I feel great about for cheap, but Madrigal right here, punt play, only $2,100. He is currently in 10% of my lineups.
The family, Madrigal. It's good stuff.
Is that your answer also?
Yes.
Yeah, the other potential options are Josh Harrison. If you wanted to get leverage and play a Brewer stack today, you go with Brian Anderson. But in terms of ones I'm actually getting any kind of reasonable amount of exposure to, Nick Madrigal, I have in 10% of my lineups, and Josh Harrison, 8%. So Those are the value options that I like the most there. Another super chat here from Corey Shea says Tovar is cool. He has $3,700 left for third base. Tovar doesn't have third base eligibility, though.
Yeah, that would be cool if he did, but he doesn't. There's a 1K gap between JD Davis, who I kind of like stacking up San Francisco today quite a bit. I am well overweight to them going up against Bassett on DK today.
If you have, by the way, this is like a shitty price range. If he says he has $3,700 left,
there's a grand that's just empty. It's just empty in the middle of it.
Yeah, if you have $3,700 left at third base, I mean, you're playing either Harrison, Anderson, Beatty, Madrigal. Like, you're leaving a bunch of salary on the table no matter what in that scenario.
Correct.
The answer for me, if you had all of the money to spend there, I guess the answer, I would just say Josh Harrison. But, I mean, at that point, I'd say maybe try to restructure your line and just upgrade somebody else somewhere else as well. Clintonwood 83 wants to know, is there a weather issue in Colorado? It's raining, but not anything that I expect the game to be canceled. Is this something you're weighing at all, Eric?
Yeah, somebody posted a video. There's somebody from Denver in my premium Discord that posted a picture, and it was pouring there. But it's also 2+ hours between now and first pitch. So I'm not concerned based on what I'm seeing coming up later in the night.
Let's see if we have any questions in Discord. If not, we'll go build some lineups in the lineup generator. We could look for some prize picks plays. Do you have a prize picks card tonight, by the way, Eric?
Yeah, I do. I'll pull that up.
All right. There we go. So we'll talk about some of the prize picks plays that Eric likes. We'll look at some of the projections on Stokastic.com. So that's what we're going to be doing with the next 10 to 15 minutes or so here. And then also we've got Strixstein71 in our Discord channel saying, I'll look like a hero or an idiot. He's fading Max Scherzer today.
Probably an idiot.
We'll see. I mean, to be honest, like, it depends how many lineups you're playing, right? If you're playing like 150 lineups and you have 0% of Max Scherzer, super aggressive stand that I couldn't get behind. But if you're playing one lineup that doesn't have Max Scherzer in it, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah, I'd be curious. Follow up with us, Strixstein. How many lineups are you playing today? I'd be interested to see. By the way, if it is of interest to you, Strixstein, Juso Dashing in YouTube channel has declared you an idiot. That is the side that he is on of your lineup decisions and not playing Max Scherzer. One of you will be right. One of you will be wrong. We'll see who ends up being in the next few hours or so. Let's go and build some lineups in the lineup generalist. Do you have anything else you want to bring up at pitcher? I assume not at this point.
No, I do not. Yeah. What would you like me to bring up?
I don't know. Maybe it's something that you want to bring up that we hadn't talked about yet.
We ain't found shit.
There
That's a
we
great
go.
movie, by the way.
All
Spaceballs.
right.
Spaceballs the flamethrower. The kids love this one.
For whatever reason, there's a hoax maybe once a year that there's going to be a sequel to Spaceballs, and I fall for it every time.
It's weird. Why would you fall for it?
I don't know. I think I've even brought it to you once. I said, do you know there was going to be a sequel to Spaceballs? And you asked me where I saw it. I went and looked it up. I was like, oh, this is actually fake now that I'm re-looking at it. But yeah, I fall for that fairly frequently.
I wish they would. It's a fantastic film. But you can't do that film again without John Candy.
And then the other thing, how long ago did the first one come out now? 30 years ago or something?
Yeah, it's forever ago. All I know is that that's the president from Independence Day. And he still looks exactly the same. I don't know how that guy aged the way he did, but the 70s, 80s, 90s to today, he looks exactly the same. It is wild.
Money.
Money. One of
the benefits of money and being able to feed on young children's blood. There's a lot of benefits to having some money.
You just say things that I just don't want you to say every show now. It's what we do here. It's great.
Have you seen, there's that guy, Brian Johnson, who's a billionaire, who says that the reason he's able to maintain looking youthful is he does blood transfusions with his teenage son.
So my favorite Prize Picks plays for today.
You do the MLB lineup generator first.
Oh, okay. We got that. Let's go.
Let's do DraftKings and let's try to build contrarian lineups. I have a feeling that even if we try to be contrarian, it's going to give us Dodgers and Max Scherzer, but prove me wrong. Let's see what ends up happening here. See what it ends up being. Do we get nothing but Dodgers and Max Scherzer? Perhaps, or maybe perhaps not. I'm seeing a lot of Dodgers so far. Good amount of Mets as well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dodgers. Our most rostered hitters are Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, Austin Barnes, Mookie Betts. Our most rostered pitcher, Max Scherzer. With that said, underweight to the field on Scherzer. We've got him in 35% of our lineups here, which off the top of my head, that is 7 out of our 20. But still, that is not quite as much as the field. And by the way, if you guys want to sign up for the MLB lineup generator, which is the easiest and most beginner-friendly tool we have over at Stokastic.com, there's a link below where you get access for less than $5. We had a guy, Bill Betts, who messaged us a couple days ago, left a super chat to say that he had won on each of the first 3 days that he used the MLB lineup generator. So it had already paid for itself at that point in time. But looking through these lineups, a ton of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's get into some Toronto as well. Brandon Belt, Bo Bichette. Anything else you're noticing here?
I mean, those are the main ones. I like seeing the San Francisco Giants. I have a ton of them today. They're my second highest owned stack next to the Dodgers. So I'm pretty stoked about that. My third highest owned stack isn't even showing up anywhere. I didn't see one St. Louis Cardinal there at all.
Yeah, I didn't either. Keep scrolling. Well, Adam Wainwright. He's a St. Louis Cardinal.
Oh,
not
dear sweet Jesus, no.
Not a hitter.
No, I bet he's no.
Who's a better hitter, Adam Wainwright or Michael Lorenzen?
That's what I was about to look up. There's something that makes me think that Adam Wainwright, again, me and my pitcher hitting breakdowns, so wild that we don't even have to think about those things. I remember how many times early on in DFS it was always the pitcher spot. Who's going to come in for the pitcher spot early? And then you would get some of these short reliever guys. And then it's oh, well, now he's going to stay in the game the entire time and pull out Bobby Dahlbeck or whomever, in that fashion. You're going to get one at bat. And then I don't know, it's nice to not have those problems anymore. But Adam Wainwright, from a batting perspective, do you want to guess his career batting average?
168.
Better than that.
Ooh, 189.
I guess I'm looking at the split leaderboard. Let me pull. He hit 190 against righties. He hit 204 against lefties. He's one of the best hitting pitchers that would have been in baseball. I was right.
Shohei Ohtani.
I knew, that's why I didn't want to bring it up.
For people who don't know,
these are jokes from 2 years ago. They're not funny anymore, Greg.
Hotly debated. When Eric came on here, not ironically, he forgot Shohei Ohtani existed. This was at the start of last year, by the way.
Yeah, because Michael Lorenzen got to hang out with him. He's a nice human.
The best hitting pitcher in baseball. Some people disagree.
I'm saying that he came from
leads baseball in home runs.
Stop. Please stop. Please
We've
stop.
got Brian Durkee bringing up DeGrom could hit the ball for sure. Yeah, remember the 1 year, what was this, 2 years ago, the start of the year where DeGrom got off to an incredible start, but also was hitting like 400 or something like that. It was a lot of it was luck based, and he had an incredibly high BABIP, but it was a ridiculous hitting start to the season for DeGrom a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he was really, really good in that department. I believe they pinch hit him a couple of times in leverage situations, which was pretty fantastic. But 194, the career batting average for Adam Wainwright, that is well above league average from pitchers back in the day.
Let's go and build out some FanDuel lineups now, Jordan. By the way, Strixstein followed up. Listen to this. 90 lineups, 0 Scherzer.
Well, pucker up that butthole. You're gonna have a day. You're gonna have a day. Best of luck to you.
This is a man living on the edge. I like the
on the
cojones.
edge. Are you getting to Cardinals? Please tell me you're getting to Cardinals. Am I the only one getting to the Cardinals today?
Let me see. I just uploaded my lineups. I have, of my 150 lineups, 15 of them are 5-man Cardinal stacks, so 10%.
Okay, so not nothing. I have about a little bit north of that, but
yep, they're my fourth.
Nothing crazy.
My fourth most rostered stack today.
Love it. Love it.
But let's go and build out some contrarian FanDuel lineups. I'm interested to see what ends up standing out here. We're building out lineups on FanDuel. We're going to get more of the Dodgers. We're going to get less. The Dodgers are a lot more popular on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings, by the way.
Yes, they are. Yeah, because pricing isn't a thing over there.
The Dodgers are 25% owned as a team on FanDuel compared to 19% on DraftKings. Oh my God, look at this. Our most rostered hitters.
My God.
Number 1, Mookie Betts. 2, Freddie Freeman. 3, Max Muncy. 4, David Peralta. 5, Miguel Vargas. 6, James Outman. 7, JD Martinez. So it's basically the entire Dodgers lineup are our most rostered hitters. Most rostered pitcher ended up being Max Scherzer. It's a pretty damn good spot for the Dodgers. I think that's the takeaway here. If you guys are looking at this and you're hand building some lineups, pretty good takeaway that we're liking the Dodgers a lot in our data and tools. And these are some of the ones that we're getting the most of, right? Mookie Betts the most, Freddie Freeman the second most over on FanDuel, just a lot of them across the board. And it makes sense. I don't really have any pushback.
None from me. It makes sense.
Let me keep scrolling down, Jordan. I'm curious what pitcher we got to the second most of. Adam Wainwright. Very little amount though, but still. Wainwright. And yeah, pretty much it. Oh no, JP France. So a JP France lineup. So we got 1 JP France lineup, 2 Adam Wainwright lineups, and then the rest of them ended up being Scherzer lineups.
Wild. So wild.
$9,700. This is going to be such a chalky FanDuel slate. Scherzer pitcher, Dodgers stacks, and that is what everybody's doing.
Yep. It's probably a good idea.
All right, let's talk about some prize picks now. And like I said at the top, if you guys have not signed up at prize picks yet, use our link below because that is not only going to give you up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit, it is also going to give you 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Now, if you're like myself and you live in a state that you don't have access to prize picks, we have a similar offer available with BetMGM. Where if you sign up at BetMGM using the link we have below, that'll also get you 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. It is also going to give you up to $1,000 in bonus bets. If your first bet loses, bet insured up to $1,000. If you or anybody you know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. But a couple of different ways here, actually a few different ways for you guys to get 1 free month Stochastic Plus Platinum. Podcast review and tweet it to me on Twitter. Sign up at Prize Picks or sign up at BetMGM. Any of that potentially could be getting you 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. The BetMGM, the Stochastic guaranteed. The podcast review, close to a guarantee right now because only 1 person has responded to it so far. Oh, no, looks like a couple other people have responded. So there we go. You now got 2 people that could potentially end up winning the podcast review sub right there.
Look at that.
1 year ago. Well, I feel like this guy may have cheated here. I think he took somebody else's review.
That's fantastic.
That what this guy did?
That's
did
pretty.
He take somebody else's review and
pretty sharp.
Oh my God.
A for effort, or actually F for effort, I suppose.
All right, let's go ahead and check out some prize picks. And what are you on for tonight, Eric? What are you liking in the prize pick streets?
Yeah, there's a couple of different pieces that I think make some sense. Has anybody watched Freddie Freeman's at bats lately? 0.5 hitter strikeouts. Dodgers, you expect to be at bat a lot tonight. And I think that kind of cues in a little bit of what I'm getting at here. You've got both Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman at the top of this lineup batting first and second. I expect them to have a lot of success against Chase Anderson, against Colorado, but having extra at bats also can be something that should be factored into K rate. They're both at 17.8%, 17.4%, pretty close to each other in terms of that K rate, but both of them have started striking out at a higher clip over the course of the last couple of weeks. Mookie Betts has talked about how he hasn't seen the ball all that well, although he ends up going yard there yesterday and ends up being a very popular piece. You put them in for 6 at bats, and this becomes a positive EV type bet. I know that seems like a lot, but their implied total is through the roof. If you're projecting them for specific at bats, 5 makes way more sense, but I think there's an outside chance they see 6 at bats here tonight. And that kind of leans me towards the direction of the over on both of them.
Okay, so we got Freddie Freeman stuff there. We've got Mookie Betts. By the way, Einsteinium, I see your question in Discord. We will answer that in a second. I'm going to pull up our Pick'em Pro projections and see what it is that is standing out there for baseball. Another thing here, if you guys want access to our Pick'em Pro, there's a link for that below. First time you sign up, super cheap. Get access for less than $10 to that. Our number one bet of the day over in our Pick'em package is Emmett Sheehan under 4.5 strikeouts.
No doubt.
I mean, it's a low number. It's hard to feel super confident in it, but we have it winning 59% of the time. He is pitching at Coors Field. Sheehan has great stuff, but I do question how it's going to end up playing here in Coors Field in Colorado. So I don't mind under 4.5 strikeouts for Sheehan. Another one here that is projecting pretty well for us, Chase Anderson, over under 3.5 strikeouts. Give me the under 3.5 for Chase Anderson.
I am also in agreement on that one. The Emmett Sheehan one is one that I'm absolutely on. It just, I thought that it made more sense. You could get a minus 103 when we were talking about, other correlating factors. You know what I'm talking about, people. But in the Pick'em streets, you're looking for that north of 56, 57% expected winning percentage. That's kind of your break-even number when you're talking about 2-3 card flexes. It extends when you're putting 6 picks together to around 53% of the time that you want to be winning. We've calculated that out. And I know that there is a video from Josh Engelman, who just, I don't know, he's pretty good at the DFS thing, goes second, third last night, where he breaks down prize picks over at Odd Shopper, talks about the 5 things that people do most frequently to screw up their cards at prize picks. If you're playing a lot over there, definitely give that VOD a look.
Yeah, Josh has been doing a really good job. He also posts his cards in Chalkboard, which I'm pretty sure we have a link for Chalkboard below, which is totally free to download Chalkboard. So go check that out if you want some more of the prize picks info from Josh. And then Loughran and myself posting some bets there as well. Let's talk about some stacks now, Eric. How about it? We've talked a lot about the Dodgers over. Like, there's nothing else to add about the Dodgers. If you were only stacking one team in a large field tournament, I still think the Dodgers are the team to get to. Would you agree with that? Not for single entry, just large field tournaments.
Yes, 100%. Yes. There you go. The single entry, no, but for tournaments, yes. For large field tournaments.
And just not that popular on DraftKings. A lot of it is because of what the price point is, but we've got them projected for less than 20% ownership as a team. That's really not that crazy of any kind of ownership here. We've got a question in our Discord channel from Einsteinium. He wants to know what our thoughts are on the Toronto Blue Jays as a stack today. They're going up against a pitcher who you and I were talking about before in Keaton Wynn, who is a potential source of salary savings. What are you going to be doing with the Blue Jays as a stack?
I'm well underweight, it looks like. I have no Blue Jays.
Yeah, I'm not getting to a ton of Blue Jays either. Most of these hitters I have 5-ish% of. They're not crazy popular, but I'm slightly underweight to the field here on the Toronto Blue Jays. And one thing, too, about Wynn pitching is I don't expect them to have a massive amount of success. By the way, I understand the spot getting to the Blue Jays. But at the same time, too, I think this is primarily going to be a bullpen game for the San Francisco Giants. It's kind of harder to find success against bullpen games than just general bad starting pitching, because even mediocre relievers are generally going to be better than mediocre starting pitchers by a pretty wide margin.
That's 100% my reasoning. I don't think he goes beyond 65, 70 pitches here. We're playing him at 4K for the price point and the price point alone, hoping he doesn't completely torch us there and Keaton win. But you start running into bullpen scenarios and it just gets ugly. It's not a very fun situation, not one you want to be overly involved in. So normally it's a good thing when you get the starter out of there early. In this case, it's just going to happen by default.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a team like the Toronto Blue Jays and not getting a lot of 5-man stacks either. It's just slightly underweight to them and mostly as one-offs when it comes to Toronto. But here's another way that I think we should look at this slate, Eric. If you're playing single entry today, would you be riding with the Dodgers as stack in single entry where they expect to probably be a little bit more popular? Or would you be looking elsewhere? And if so, which team would you get to in single entry if not a Dodgers stack?
Yeah, so the Dodgers, I'm not going to be playing them in single entry tonight. I am looking at San Francisco. So Chris Bassett, he's the second most popular pitcher on the slate. And because of price and name recognition and overall K stuff compared to other pitchers on this slate, he's pulling all of the ownership on DraftKings and on FanDuel. I think this is just a prime time to fire up some of the batters that you know, especially on the San Francisco side, that might not be getting pulled immediately here. And even if they do, I'm absolutely on board with just jamming against a popular Chris Bassett, just about any slate like this. They're not pulling the kind of ownership that for single entry. I mean, they've only got a 5.9% top stack percentage. It's second worst on this slate, but there's positive leverage and you get some of these lefties, especially Chris Bassett giving up tons of lefty power right now. I want to be on board that.
My favorite, the team I'm playing in single entry today, and also my favorite contrarian stack of the day, is the same team that you and I were texting about yesterday that you liked. You couldn't believe what their ownership
Colorado Rockies. Yeah, I jammed them yesterday.
I love the Rockies today.
Yeah.
And getting overweight to the field on them. You got to, and it's twofold. Number one, it's Coors Field. It's the Colorado Rockies. Whenever they're at Coors Field, they have upside. They're not all that popular today. And they're going up against a pitcher who's really popular. Emmett Sheehan is the most popular cheap pitcher on the entire slate. It's projected for the third most ownership on the entire slate of any pitcher. I like the leverage that I'm getting off of Emmett Sheehan, a young pitcher. And by the way, I would feel the same about the Toronto Blue Jays if Keaton Winn was popular. But Keaton Winn isn't popular. Emmett Sheehan is really popular. I think there's a wide range of outcomes. He's pitching in Coors Field. How often do you get an opportunity to stack a low-owned offense in Coors Field against a popular starting pitcher? By the way, a starting pitcher who's not even all that like a lead or anything like that.
Yesterday, every Rocky was 1 to 3% owned. And I had so much leverage there and I was feeling really good. And they got to 9 quick and just kind of stopped. It was unfortunate. I thought I was going to run into some Cleveland goodness. Cause again, they ran it up to 14 yesterday and you needed J-Ram. You needed guys like that to win a tournament yesterday, or you just needed that combination of Texas with Cleveland. But I had a lot of Colorado, had a lot of Dodgers. I thought it could have had the lid taken off of it. I think it's a great team to get to again today. Obviously I'm going to be more on board for the Dodgers because, well, they have a higher top stack percentage, higher implied total. Everything makes sense there. But considering Colorado just keeps going completely unowned, seems like every one of these slates, you can just blindly back them. They were my single entry team yesterday. Don't mind if they are today. It's just that Hassett pulling as much ownership as he is, I kind of want to get a piece of that.
Yeah, and a couple comments in the YouTube chat. You got Anthony Child saying plus Colorado is cheap. Yeah, they are very cheap. This is not an expensive offense at all. And we'll talk about FanDuel in a second as well. But I mean, on DraftKings, the most expensive hitter, it's CJ Cronin, Ryan McMahon are both $4,600. You've got Tovar and McMahon are both just under 13% owned. And there's not another hitter in the lineup projected for more than 7% ownership. On a short slate, this is a very low-owned team in the Colorado Rockies. And then like I was saying, you got the 2 guys projected for 13% ownership and everybody else is low-owned. Like 5-man stacks are just not going to be popular today. And then the other thing here is we had Sotex asked, how popular is Sheehan? He's projected for 25% ownership. So fairly popular. Fairly popular. Check our Discord, see if we have any questions here. And we do not right now. Are there any offenses you like coming in underweight to the field on, Eric?
No offenses I like coming. I'm underweight, I know for a fact, to Toronto. And when I say that I'm underweight to them, it's not that I have anything against them. I think there's cases to be made for being overweight to Philly, for being overweight to St. Louis, for being overweight to a lot of these teams. But I'm not getting there to Toronto. I'm not getting there as much as the field is to Houston, even though there are specific positions, whether it's Kyle Tucker, Yenner Diaz, both of those guys are showing up way more for me as 2-mans and 1-offs. So I'm just getting to them still, but not getting to the team as a 5-man all that much. And then Milwaukee, I have 0 of, even though I thought I would get to a little bit considering how popular Max Scherzer is, knowing the way that I build out lineups and the way that I'm using the Sims tool on a daily basis, but didn't really happen on this slate. It's pretty condensed towards Dodgers, towards Cardinals, towards I am getting to the Phillies a little bit more than I expected, and then St. Louis. I'm just getting to a lot of.
Yeah, I do have 8% of the Brewers, but it wouldn't be a consideration for me in single entry. It's just large field that I'm looking at the Milwaukee Brewers. And we got a question here from Einstein, who followed up. He wants to know, can you make the same argument for the Brewers against Max Scherzer you could make for the Rockies against Sheehan? Here's why I can. Because Max Scherzer's so much better and more proven than Emmett Sheehan. Like, that's really the difference here, is that when I'm picking on Sheehan, this is a pitcher who has a lot of talent. He throws really hard. He seems to have really good stuff, but he's not a proven commodity at all. And he's still really popular on the slate pitching in Coors Field. Whereas Max Scherzer, you can play the Brewers in large field tournaments, but not a team I would be looking at in single entry.
Ohtani just hit number 29. This is getting really stupid.
Let's see. Ohtani. Yeah, Ohtani homered. Trout single there. I have I only played one lineup on the early slate because we had our meetings and whatnot. I have a Angels Yankees stack, which would seem good on the surface, but then my pitchers are Sandoval and Olsen, and Olsen took a line drive off the leg and got hurt in the early going. So
yeah, I bet Detroit. I was always going to bet Detroit against Texas with Reese Olsen. He's legitimately good. Like, that is a good arm.
Yeah, but unfortunately, he has a bad leg now. So
yeah, and they had 8 pitchers going. But hey, a bullpen situation was actually good for me, probably.
But yeah, nice for min cashing today. Nice min cash by playing the nut offenses.
Let's go. Way to go, Gregory.
Yeah, because my pitchers absolutely died.
Make it all back. Go to Prize Picks, Emmett Sheehan, Chase Anderson, less and less. Let's go.
Let's do it. Looking at other offenses, I'm underweight to the field on the Houston Astros. They're our most negatively leveraged offense right now. One of the reasons also that I'm coming in overweight to the field on Adam Wainwright, I don't feel great about it because I think Wainwright is super washed, but this is a ton of ownership. Like, the Astros ownership is comparable to the ownership that's projected for the Dodgers today, and I just don't think it's nearly as good of a spot for the Astros as it is for the Dodgers.
Agreed. It's just a spot where Houston is overowned. There's really nothing you can say about it. Again, I'm plucking the 2 batters that are the most popular, and I'm actually overweight to them, but I'm overweight to them individually because then you run into this Julks character who I think is just coming in massively overowned. You run into the Bregman and Altuve. You run into some of these other batters, and it just seems like I'm underweight to all of them other than Tucker, Diaz.
Are there any other offenses that you're getting any kind of real significant exposure to? By the way, for me, my 4 most rostered offenses, these are the 4 teams I have double-digit exposure to. Dodgers 1, Rockies 2, Phillies 3, Cardinals 4 for me. Any other offenses here you want to talk about?
Nope. Dodgers 1, San Francisco 2 for me, St. Louis 3, Colorado 4.
All right, let's go and check Discord. No final questions here. So let's go and look at the FanDuel slate, Eric, to see if there's anything different that we feel about FanDuel relative to DraftKings. I do think the Dodgers are much different looking on FanDuel just from a standpoint of, instead of the Dodgers being 19% owned on DraftKings, we have them at 25% on FanDuel. So at that kind of ownership, are you still willing to get overweight to the field when they're 25% owned?
So I could, because I'm not going to be playing Max Scherzer in the couple lineups that I made over there today, but I'm more inclined today from a stacking perspective to just get away from it because of how insanely popular they are. So I'm going to a combination of let me just go through the lineups. Colorado, I have a lot of, and then the Mets. The Mets are another team that I wasn't really getting to over on DK. They're pretty flat in terms of leverage. Pretty much everybody is appropriately owned on FanDuel to a certain extent. And generally when that happens on slates, you end up seeing Houston and the Dodgers just jammed because people just jam chalk over on FanDuel. I think even more pronounced than what they do over on DraftKings. There's a couple of slates recently where I was like, man, I should have played a lot more volume fading top offenses over on FanDuel. The pricing just allows you to play whomever you want along with your pitcher every single day. No different today. You don't have a 10K Max Scherzer over there on FanDuel, so people are able to get to the Dodgers in bulk. I'm not going to be playing them over there.
I wouldn't say not play them. By the way, I'm only playing on DraftKings today. I'm not playing on FanDuel. I ran lineups for FanDuel for the purposes of just being able to talk about it because that's the easiest way for me, by the way, to talk about some of the slates even when I'm not playing, is just building lineups and see what I would have gotten to. But for FanDuel purposes, I would still be getting to a lot of the Dodgers, making them my most rostered offense on the slate, but a little more comparable to the field, whereas DraftKings, I'm overweight to them by a decent margin. The team I liked the least on FanDuel, Houston Astros going up against Adam Wainwright. Wainwright project for no ownership, but then you've also got the Astros project for 18% ownership compared to 12.4% stack odds. So the Astros are a team to me to come underweight to the field on. Are there any contrarian offenses you like above the others on FanDuel?
Yeah, so the Mets, I like getting to. They're contrarian up against Hauser. He's terrible, but they're only pulling, 7.7% ownership share over on FanDuel for this slate. I like getting to them. It's a lot of the same that we have on DK, but as I said before, you're going to get even more pronounced chalk. The ownership is through the roof on FanDuel for these teams. I mean, we have the top stack percentage. It's still positive leverage to get to the Dodgers, it looks like, over on FanDuel, and yet I don't think today, but just because, I'm not playing all that many lineups over there, I have the feeling they're going to end up getting jammed. So I'm just going to be trying to make any other offense work. The number one, I think, target for that is a positively leveraged Colorado team.
Yeah, same for me. Colorado Rockies. We don't have Sheehan. You're not getting the same leverage off of Sheehan because he's only 5.5% owned on FanDuel, so compared to him being 25% owned on DraftKings. But still, we've got the Rockies project for 5.8% ownership on FanDuel, 8% chance to be a top stack, and everything else applies here as well. Emmett Sheehan is a young pitcher. He's unproven. He's going to be inconsistent this year. He's at Coors Field. The Rockies aren't projected for any ownership, really. The Rockies are projected to be the third lowest owned team on all of FanDuel. The only teams projected for less ownership are the Giants and the Brewers, and that's just incorrect to me. So I like being overweight to the field on the Rockies as a contrarian stack on both sites today. Anything else you want to add about stacks? If not, we'll do our home run picks and we'll get out of here for the night.
Let's get out of here.
All right. Home run pick. Last night, I went with Giancarlo Stanton. He ended up homering, came through. Do you remember what was your home run pick yesterday? I'm trying to recall.
Well, I wanted Mookie Betts because I bet him, but that seemed like cheating. I can't remember. I took Adam Duvall and he did not homer.
All right. Today, though, you're gonna get your home run pick correct and get on the board. So for today, the only rule is we're not going to pick anybody at Coors Field. That aside, Eric, what's your home run pick of the night?
Can I give you a 9-hole home run special against Mr. Adrian Hauser? We're going to go to Beatty. I think this is a spot where I'm just looking at my lineups. Apparently, I just have a ton of this dude. Wasn't anticipating that, but part of that is that he's going a little bit underrepresented in terms of what that power could be. It has not been a good year for him in any way, shape, or form, but that is your super contrarian bomb of the day.
Kyle Schwarber. I'm picking
cheating, blasphemous, chalky. He's the most likely player to hit a home run on the slate, and he's still a good bet at like plus 230 or whatever it was. But still, come on.
He's 16% owned. Let's see then.
I'm talking from a home run perspective. Erroneous on all counts.
So if you had, including Coors Field, you have to pick the players actually most likely to homer. I would say Max Muncy.
I hate.
All right,
this game is so dumb. At some point,
you vetoed my Kyle Schwarber pick.
Yeah. Those are the two most likely homers on the entire slate.
Let's see.
Give me something. Give me Brandon Marsh. I would have some respect for you.
All right, but I don't want to pick somebody who I'm not really playing a lot of and I don't think is going to homer.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at my lineups, and I was going to say I didn't even bet Beatty, but it just seems like a really fun one to throw out of my hat.
All right. Who is the player who has actually, I do have some exposure to Brandon Marsh. I'm not picking him, though. All right, Dansby Swanson, then. I'm overweight to Dansby Swanson. You happy with that, you piece of garbage?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, see? That made me happy. Now we can get out of here.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching the show. Eric could go fuck himself. You guys, though, do me a favor. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you leave a podcast review, give us 5 stars. Write in a comment. Respond to me on Twitter. You have a chance to win 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys all win some money today. I'll be back here to break down tomorrow's
Greg
slate as well.
Oden, okay. Greg Oden.